I live in a world where, after the wars, there are barely any men left. Now, for every man, there are 5 women, and the government gives out wives for money. I'm a blind beggar, barely able to feed myself. But when the last girl fell to her knees in front of me and whispered,
"Please, take me. If you walk away, my father will kill me."
I couldn't take it anymore. I simply took her hand and walked away. That's how I got my first wife. And that was only the beginning. Guys, if you haven't seen the previous parts, you'll find the links in the description and the pinned comment. Now, let's get to the story. In the previous part, Qingxiu, now powerful and dangerous, continues to expand his influence. He reveals the dangers of gunpowder to Emperor Li heir and gains full support for its production. But when the Turkic princess Ashina Yu refuses to pay for a set of wine vessels she bought at his auction, Qingxiu publicly demands payment and threatens to detain her. This sparks a diplomatic scandal, but the emperor supports Qingxiu, who is deliberately provoking the Turks into war, knowing he now has artillery on his side. Qingxiu detains the princess and begins psychologically and physically breaking her down. He puts her through personal trials, mocking her every failure. He then reveals his plan, to spread glass wolf totems across the steppe to ignite conflict among the Turkic tribes. At the same time, Qingxiu is expanding his glassware and alcohol businesses, manipulating noblewomen, and building relationships with school teachers and lovers. In the village of Sanha, he launches a large-scale operation to discredit 3 powerful clans by distributing divine brushes to village children. When the clan patriarchs accuse him of undermining tradition, it turns out that the so-called unique brush is just a mass-produced item. The scholars are shocked. One dies on the spot, another is bitten by Qingxiu's servant, and a third is crippled by a doctor who mixes chili powder into his medicine. The emperor uses this as a pretext and orders the mass execution of the Lu clan, sending a terrifying message to the rest of the elite. Meanwhile, an old acquaintance returns to Qingxiu, Zhang Laodao, also known as Old Knife. He has successfully escorted Li Yuqing to Nanzhao, where she took control of the Wuzhu sect. Now she's back, hiding in the Pavilion of Red Sleeves, to avoid drama with Qingxiu's many wives. Qingxiu is delighted. Tonight, he plans to visit his former lover. In the evening, Qingxiu had the household cook prepare a table full of dishes to welcome Zhang Laodao and relieve his fatigue. Zhang Laodao, who had been eating at irregular times in the open air for over 2 months, ate heartily, consuming the equivalent of 3 meals in one sitting. Especially the spicy crayfish and chilled crayfish, he alone devoured 2 large basins, totaling several dozen jin. Even after that, he still felt unsatisfied. Qingxiu therefore had the cook prepare 2 more large basins of crayfish for Zhang Laodao to pack and take away. The next afternoon, Qingxiu found an excuse to go out. He didn't go to the Qing residence, nor to the palace, but instead went to Pingkong Alley in the Red Light Street. Although they had been apart for almost 3 months, Li Yuqing hadn't changed much. Her complexion remained as fair, tender, and smooth as ever. Zhang Laodao had become tan from driving the carriage all day. Li Yuqing, who spent her days in the carriage traveling, hadn't been tanned at all and was even slightly paler than when she left. Seeing Qingxiu standing at the door, Li Yuqing's eyes reddened slightly. She pressed her lips shut and didn't speak, but gently closed the room door. After closing the door, she could no longer suppress her longing. She immediately threw herself into Qingxiu's arms and tremulously said, "Husband, after being apart for months, I have missed you to death." By the end, she had already changed the way she addressed Qingxiu. That tender husband sent a tingle through Qingxiu's bones. Qingxiu patted her back and said softly, "I missed you too, I even dreamed about you many times." Li Yuqing's delicate body trembled. With blurred, teary eyes, she coquettishly asked, "Really?" "Of course it's true," Qingxiu said as if swearing truly, as though he really had dreamed of her. Li Yuqing's face brightened. At once she believed his sweet words without doubt. Qingxiu took a step back, grasped her soft, boneless shoulders and looked carefully, then frowned and said, "How have you gained weight?" "Have I?" Li Yuqing panicked inwardly, anxiously eyeing herself, and nervously touched her cheeks. "Where have I gained weight?" "Here, you've gained a whole circle compared to when you left." Qingxiu didn't hold back. With his and Lushan claw, he placed it on her tender chest and gently massaged. Li Yuqing blushed deeply, rolled her eyes, and slapped his hand away, coquettishly chiding, "Husband, you're so bad, how can you bully people like this?" Her intoxicating posture made Qingxiu smile and say, "That's what you call bad? You haven't seen worse, I'm going to properly tease you tonight." As he spoke, he leaned his head forward. "Ugh," Li Yuqing let out a moan, her face flushing like rosy clouds as she closed her eyes tightly. No matter how often they had been together, Li Yuqing was no longer as shy as in the beginning when it came to such matters. Instead, she cooperated skillfully. Once they cooperated, they moved to the bed. After a long drought encountering sweet dew, Li Yuqing couldn't care that it was still daytime, she could only be described as impatient. Soon after, the room burst with springtime hidden inside. Clouds dispersed, rain ceased. Li Yuqing leaned lightly beside Qing Xiu, her enchanting face full of satisfaction. Her eyes trembled, her voice, in anticipation yet laced with laziness, asked, "Husband, shall we stay here overnight?" Qing Xiu pushed away the plump, full body gently, frowned and shook his head. "It's too hot here, body's sticky, if we stayed the night, we probably wouldn't sleep well. Rest a bit, then return to the residence." "Oh." Li Yuqing let out a soft "oh," sadness hard to hide in her brows. She slowly rose, took the initiative to step off the bed, covering the scene in front of her with one hand and picking up Qing Xiu's scattered clothes from the floor with the other. Without a word, she began to assist him in dressing. Qing Xiu took the clothes and said, "Let me do it." While dressing, he smiled, "What's this? You're reluctant to let me go?" Li Yuqing's disappointment deepened on her face, she softly nodded and murmured yes, but didn't say more. Qing Xiu raised his hand and gave her a light slap on the rear jokingly, "You hurry and dress too, let's return to the residence together." Li Yuqing's delicate body shivered, unable to contain herself. Husband, do you plan to take me back home?" Her eyes instantly blurred, with the impulse to cry. Qing Xiu teased, "What's the matter? You don't want to?" Li Yuqing tears slipped, she nodded crazily and choked out, "Yes, I want to, didn't I hear wrong? Husband are truly willing to take me home." She had originally thought that as an underground worker, her identity would accompany her all her life. She never expected that he actually was willing to take her home. She knew what that meant. As long as he took her home, it would be equivalent to revealing her identity, she could rightfully serve as his concubine. Qing Xiu laughed, patted her perky buttocks and said, "You didn't hear wrong, hurry up and dress." Li Yuqing no longer hesitated and quickly tidied her appearance. Soon after, the two left Red Sleeves Tower together and boarded the carriage, heading toward the Qing residence. On the carriage, Li Yuqing leaned her slightly flushed face into Qing Xiu's arms, letting him touch her without resistance. It felt like a dream as she nervously asked, "Husband, what if your wives don't like me?" Qing Xiu was stunned, "I'm only taking you home, I haven't decided to arrange for you to meet them yet." Li Yuqing paused then nodded, "I know, it's difficult for you, and you need time to plan. You having this in mind is already enough satisfaction for me, I dare not ask for more." Qing Xiu tightened his mouth, again, a woman who likes to read into things. But he didn't say more, instead softly said, "They seldom come to Chang'an, before I plan things out, if you meet them, don't show it. Otherwise I'll be in trouble." Li Yuqing pursed her lips and smiled, "All according to you, husband can tell the ladies that I am your maid. I won't make things difficult for you." "I'm really moved," Qing Xiu said, and his hand involuntarily squeezed. The pressure was just right on his hand, making Li Yuqing feel some discomfort. But fortunately, as they neared the residence, Qing Xiu let her go, and within a teacup's time she recovered her composed and dignified demeanor. After entering the Qing residence and getting off the carriage, a figure suddenly flew over and grabbed Qing Xiu's arm tightly, pleading, "Marquis Qing, when will you release me? I beg you, let me return to the Turks. I promise I will come back to serve you, I swear I will definitely return." The person was Ashinayu. Since the hostage plan failed a month ago, Ashinayu knew that the envoy who had come to Chang'an had already begun to depart back to the Turks. Once the envoy returned to the Turks and described her situation, her father, Khagan Jelu Khan, would definitely send troops to attack the Tang. At that time, the entire Turks would be in grave danger, even possible extinction. So in the past half-month, every day Ashinayu waited for him to come, begging Qing Xiu to release her. At this moment, Ashinayu had not a trace of pride left, she could only be described as extremely humble. Li Yuqing looked curiously at Ashinayu. After clearly seeing the other woman's appearance, she couldn't help but feel a bit surprised and amazed. She turned out to be a foreign woman? And this foreign woman's looks could be described as stunningly beautiful. Such breathtaking beauty was rare even in the Tang dynasty. Faced with Ashinayu's pleading eyes and humble voice, to be honest, Qing Xiu also felt a little soft-hearted, and for a moment even considered letting her go. But if he did, he would become a criminal of the Tang dynasty. The Turks were just barbarians, it was impossible to reason with them. The only solution was to beat them into submission. If Ashinayu were released and returned to inform Jeli, he might retreat to the north and avoid sending troops. But as long as the Turkic cavalry still existed, it would be a deadly threat to the Tang. As long as the Turks remained, the people living in the north of the Tang would continue to suffer from plundering and killing. Wiping out the Turks in one blow was also what Qing Xiu had in mind. However, after spending more than a month together, Qingxiu couldn't help but grow fond of Ashina's bold and passionate nature. If the Turks were destroyed, it would also mean the end of their intimate relationship. Although it didn't feel good emotionally, Qingxiu didn't regret his decision or intentions. He pulled his hand out of Ashina's arms, and with a stern expression shook his head and said, "Like I said before, letting you go is impossible. Just stay here obediently." Ashina's face went pale, and she collapsed to the ground, crying in despair. The saying, "feelings grow over time," was very true. After spending so much time together, it was impossible for Ashina not to have feelings for Qingxiu. From admiration to hatred, then from hatred to a mix of love and hate, her emotional journey had been rough. "Are you really going to let our entire Turkic nation be destroyed? You're so cruel." Ashina looked at him with sorrow and despair. Qingxiu squatted down and then shook his head, saying, "Don't misunderstand. I didn't say I want to destroy the Turks completely. And don't assume the worst. What I'm doing is just to weaken the Turks so they can no longer threaten the Tang. As a Turkic princess, you should clearly understand how much harm your cavalry has done to us Tang people. I can't let a country that loves to burn, kill, and loot keep threatening the Tang." Ashina shook her head sorrowfully and said, "How is this any different from destroying us? The Turks only have about 100,000 people, more than half are old, weak, women, and children. The cavalry are our country's only able-bodied men. If the cavalry are wiped out, it means the Turks are finished." Qingxiu stood up and said, "Think whatever you want, the outcome is already set. You can't change it, and don't try to beg me, I won't let you go." Ashina's face was lifeless, her eyes empty. Like a walking corpse, she staggered back to her room. Li Yuqing, who had witnessed everything and roughly understood the story, sighed and said, "Husband, this must be difficult for you." Qingxiu nodded, then smiled and shook his head. "What difficulty? Personal emotions can't override the interests of the country. If the nation is gone, what use are personal feelings?" Li Yuqing gently nodded in agreement. Ashina didn't make a sound after returning to her room. As evening came, Qingxiu told the cook to prepare a delicious meal. The food amazed Li Yuqing, and she suddenly felt like she never wanted to leave. After the meal and drinks, Qingxiu stood up and said, "It's getting late. Tomorrow I'll have someone arrange a room for you. Soon someone will bring you bath water. I'll go back to my room now. Come find me once you're done eating." Li Yuqing's face turned slightly red. She stood up and said, "I'm already done eating. I'll go with you, husband." Qingxiu chuckled and said, "Go with me, or bathe with me." "This, whatever husband says," Li Yuqing said shyly, her blushing face alluring. Naturally, this led to a splashy bath fight, and they didn't sleep until late into the night. The next morning, just as Qingxiu stepped out, a maid nervously walked up and said, "Marquis, Miss Ashina made no sound last night or this morning. The food brought in wasn't touched, and she doesn't respond when spoken to." Qingxiu frowned and waved her off. "Got it. You can leave." After sending the maid away, Qingxiu went to Ashina's room and pushed the door open. He saw her lying motionless on the bed, still wearing yesterday's clothes. He walked over and knocked on the table. She didn't react at all, not even a twitch. Qingxiu sat by the bed and said in a deep voice, "Are you planning to starve yourself?" Ashina didn't respond. Her eyes were blank, her face lifeless. If it weren't for the slight rise and fall of her chest, Qingxiu might have thought she was dead. It wasn't surprising. For the past few days, only one thought filled her mind: the Turks were doomed. Yesterday evening, she completely fell into despair. She had no way to stop what was coming. Her heart was like dead ashes. Qingxiu sighed, "Why do this to yourself? Fine, it's not completely hopeless." Upon hearing this, Ashina's body trembled slightly, and a spark appeared in her eyes. Qingxiu noticed, she was looking at him with hope. Qingxiu took a deep breath and said, "You know as well as I do, over 100,000 Turkic cavalry can't all be wiped out. In a war, maybe 80,000 to 100,000 will die, maybe only 30,000 to 50,000. The rest will surrender. I can promise you, I will ask His Majesty not to kill the surrendered soldiers." Ashina finally spoke. With a trembling voice, she asked, "What you said is true? You promise you won't lie to me?" "I promise." Ashina cried from joy, choking out, "Good, then I'll thank you on their behalf." "So, will you still starve yourself?" Ashina shook her head while wiping away tears. "No more. This is already the best outcome for me. If the war really starts, and once it ends, can you let me go?" Qingxiu hesitated, then shook his head. "I won't answer that for now. We'll see when the time comes." Ashina gave a bitter smile and said, "If this war really happens, my father will surely die. He brought so much shame to Li Shimin won't let him live. And all of this is related to you. If my father is killed, you'll have played a part. To serve the man who killed my father, I'd rather die. Do you understand me? Qing Xiu suddenly had a thought and said calmly, what if I told you, I won't let His Majesty kill your father? In history, didn't Li Shimin spare Jelly? Li Jing captured him and brought him to Chang'an. Li Shimin made him a ceremonial figure, and he eventually died of old age. Ashina Yu's body trembled, lips quivering as she stared at Qing Xiu. Her gaze was resolute, as long as my father isn't killed, I'll serve you like a beast of burden for the rest of my life, no, for 10 lifetimes. All right, Qing Xiu laughed. You said it, remember your words today. As long as you keep your word, I won't starve. I'll eat now. Once I regain strength, I'll serve you well. Qing Xiu's expression turned odd. Was this considered an early down payment? Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunyan were disciples of the same master and had grown up together since childhood. They had a deep bond. After breakfast, with Qing Xiu's permission, she went to Sanha village. Having not seen each other for months, the 4 women of the Wu ancestor sect had a lot to catch up on. Qing Xiu simply gave them a day off to reunite. In the days that followed, Qing Xiu stayed in Sanha village to study hot air balloons. Although there were a few failures, he eventually succeeded in getting one to fly. Upon receiving the news, Li Er immediately rushed to Sanha village. On a clearing away from the village, Li Er looked at the large piece of black cloth spread on the ground and asked in surprise, Marquis Qing, is this the hot air balloon you mentioned? If it's a balloon, why isn't it round? Qing Xiu explained, it becomes a balloon only after it's filled with hot air. Please be patient, Your Majesty, I'll demonstrate it now. Under Li Er's curious gaze, Qing Xiu ordered the guards to unfold the hot air balloon. Taizhu skillfully lit the fierce oil in the stove with a torch. The flames leapt up, and the breeze carried hot air into the balloon, which slowly began to inflate. Once it had expanded enough, Taizhu and Guzi climbed into the basket below. There was a hemp rope tied to the basket to prevent the balloon from flying up to tens of thousands of meters. At present, they had no way to control the balloon's direction in flight. The rope was the only means of control. Li Er was amazed as he watched the huge black object slowly rise into the air. In less than the time it takes to burn an incense stick, it had already reached several dozen zhang in height. If the rope were longer, it could fly even higher. Heavens! Li Er exclaimed. It really flew. Marquis Qing, how does it come down? Qing Xiu smiled and said, very simple. Just extinguish the fire. Without hot air, it will quickly descend. Amazing! Quick, have them land now. Qing Xiu called out to Taizhu and Guzi in the balloon, and shortly after, the hot air balloon slowly descended to the ground. Li Er said excitedly, Marquis Qing, I also want to see the sky. But this flies a bit too low. Is there a way to reach the clouds? Qing Xiu gave a wry smile. The rope is only this long. If we had a long enough rope, it might be possible, but I can't guarantee it. Li Er nodded and smiled. Even if it doesn't reach the clouds, flying this high is already an amazing invention. Oh right, Marquis Qing, Li Er asked, how many of these are there? I've already made over 10 hot air balloons this month. So many? Give me one. Li Er's eyes lit up, he was already eager to show off in front of his ministers. Qing Xiu laughed. They were made for Your Majesty. You can take them anytime. And they're not just for dropping flyers. They can be used on the battlefield too. Li Er's eyes sparkled. How so? Qing Xiu explained, Your Majesty, if we load grenades onto the balloons, imagine the possibilities. Li Er became excited, slapping his thigh. Marquis Qing, you're brilliant. This is like divine weapons descending from the heavens. With this and grenades, we'd have absolute dominance in war. That same day, Li Er took 10 hot air balloons and brought Taizhu, who had mastered how to operate them. In just a few days, Taizhu trained a group of skilled balloon pilots. For the next few days, Li Er personally oversaw training them in throwing techniques, and the results were excellent. Although Li Yuqing and Li Yuchan had nearly identical names, their personalities were very different. Li Yuchan was a lively, obedient girl-next-door type. Li Yuqing, however, was also very obedient, especially in bed. No matter what pose Qing Xiu wanted, she could do it. Like tonight's pose, 1 foot up, 1 foot down, standing firm and proud, left someone else just as proud and firm. After their population-increasing exercise for the Tang dynasty, Li Yuqing lay lazily next to Qing Xiu. After some hesitation, she said, Husband, a few days ago, I heard from my junior sister that she took the 7-day deadly poison. Could you give them the antidote? Qing Xiu was stunned and fell into thought. So that was it. Seeing his blank face, Li Yuqing hurriedly said, Anyway, Yunyan is already your woman. With me around, she won't cause any trouble. I guarantee it with my own life. Qing Xiu raised an eyebrow and asked, When did you find out? Li Yuqing replied softly, when I went to Sanha village the other day, I figured it out the first time we met. She told you? Li Yuqing shook her head. I figured it out myself. She didn't admit it at first, but eventually she did. Husband, I already asked, Yunyan won't be a threat to you anymore. So, can you? Qing Xiu's face hardened. You're using yourself as a guarantee? What do you have to offer me? Don't forget, you already belong to me. Li Yuqing replied awkwardly, I have nothing but my body. I have nothing else that would catch your eye. Qing Xiu suddenly smiled and whispered something in her ear. Li Yuqing blushed instantly and nervously said, Isn't that a bit too much? It's so embarrassing. Qing Xiu slapped her on the butt and turned over. I've shown you the path, it's up to you whether to take it or not. Li Yuqing bit her lip, her face even redder. After a long silence, she suddenly gritted her teeth and said, Fine. I'll talk to Yunyan tomorrow and test her thoughts. The next morning, Li Yuqing went to Sanha village to find Lu Yunyan. After hearing Li Yuqing's proposal, Lu Yunyan's face turned bright red. She said in disbelief, Senior sister, how could you say something so outrageous? The two of us, together? Li Yuqing replied helplessly, Yunyan, I'm desperate. If we want the antidote for the 7-day deadly poison, this might be the only way. And if we sacrifice ourselves, he'll give us 3 doses of the antidote. Xiao Rou and Shui Xian will be saved too. Lu Yunyan hesitated, her red face full of conflict. But after a long while, she also gritted her teeth and nodded. If one of me can save 3 people, it's worth it. Senior sister, I'll listen to you. Today, I'll go to Chang'an with you. By evening, Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan took a carriage to the Marquis of Zhenguo's residence in Chang'an. Qing Xiu saw Lu Yunyan coming with Li Yuqing but didn't show any reaction on his face. However, inside, he was itching for night to fall. If Ashina Yu joined in, making it 1 dragon with 3 phoenixes, it would be perfect. A person must have dreams. Without dreams, what's the difference from a salted fish? Li Yuqing appeared cold and glamorous on the outside, but was fiery and passionate on the inside, especially after being explored several times. She had become even more uninhibited than Lu Yunyan. As for Lu Yunyan, although she appeared seductive and naturally alluring, she was actually quite conservative and a bit shy. The two together could be described as ice and fire, completely opposite styles. Although Qing Xiu had experienced the pleasure of 2 phoenixes singing in harmony at home before, Yunyang had even participated, Changsun Pingting, a girl who had never been touched before, couldn't fully satisfy him. But Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan were different. They were both mature, graceful older women. And both practiced martial arts, so they could present countless postures. The next day, when Qing Xiu went out, he looked refreshed and full of energy. The weather in early August had already begun to cool. It was the perfect season for boating on the lake. Sure enough, early in the morning, a young eunuch from the palace came with a letter. It was handwritten by Princess Xiangqing, Li Lizhu. The content was basically an invitation to go boating on the lake the next day. Qing Xiu received the letter and said to the eunuch, Go back and tell your princess, I will be waiting to receive her at Chengtian Gate tomorrow morning. Yes, Marquis. I'll take my leave. After the eunuch left, Qing Xiu returned to his room and drew a sketch of several unique accessory designs. Then he went to the boiler room and asked the craftsman team led by Wei Laojiu to make them. The next day, Qing Xiu had Wei Laojiu drive the carriage to the palace. After waiting about the time it takes to burn an incense stick, a group of people approached from afar. At the front was Princess Xiangqing. She wore light clothes that fluttered in the wind, with a pure and noble aura, untouched by the dust of the world. Her skin was fair and tender, with bright eyes and white teeth. Though still young, she had already grown into a beauty who could outshine all others. When she arrived at Chengtian Gate, her face blushed as she turned and gave a few instructions to her attendants. Her maid, Little Cherry, giggled and said, Princess, hurry up now, don't keep his lordship waiting. Have fun. Li Lizhu's face turned even redder, and she snapped playfully, Cherry, he's not my consort yet. Keep talking nonsense and I'll rip your mouth apart. Cherry covered her mouth, still laughing. His Majesty has already announced it to the world. Who doesn't know that the Marquis Qing is the princess's consort? Even if he isn't yet, he will be soon. Princess, hurry up. You can scold me when you get back. Li Lizhu shyly pinched Cherry and walked in small steps toward the carriage. What Cherry said was true. Qing Xiu would soon be her consort. Emperor Li Er had decided they would marry before the Mid-Autumn Festival, which was less than half a month away. Qing Xiu lifted the curtain and reached out his hand with a smile. Li Lizhu blushed slightly and offered her hand as he helped her into the carriage. Once inside, Li Lizhu lowered her head and said nothing, a hint of nervousness on her face. This was, after all, their first date alone. Though they had met many times recently, it was always in the presence of Li Er and Empress Changsun. Their relationship had been lukewarm at best. Qingxiu gave a command, and Wei Laojiu drove the carriage straight to Furong Garden. After a while, Qingxiu smiled and asked, "Why is Her Highness so quiet today?" Li Lizhu, now more like her usual self, glanced at Qingxiu and snorted. She lifted the curtain and looked outside, muttering, "I can't be bothered with a wooden block like you." Qingxiu was puzzled. He thought for a long time but couldn't figure out what he did wrong. His skin was thick, so he shamelessly smiled and said, "Why ignore me? If I've made you angry, princess, please tell me so I may die with clarity." Li Lizhu let the curtain fall, pouted slightly, and said, "Father betrothed me to you. The wedding date was set for the 12th of August. It's been over a month since then, and you've never once expressed your feelings or made a move. I even had to be the one to arrange a meeting. If you don't like me, just say so. I'll go to father and cancel the engagement." Qingxiu finally understood. He smiled bitterly and said, "That's my fault, but I've been really busy lately." "Busy?" Li Lizhu looked at him with disdain. "Busy flirting with the Turkic princess?" Qingxiu shook his head righteously. "You can insult me, princess, but not my integrity." Li Lizhu rolled her eyes and sneered, "Who in court doesn't know you've got a beautiful Turkic princess imprisoned at home? I've seen her myself, she's one of the rare beauties in this world. She's been in your residence for almost 2 months. You see each other every day. Don't try to convince me that nothing happened between you." Sigh. Mother was right. There's not a single decent man in the world. Qingxiu explained, "Lizhu, you might not know this, but You, what did you call me?" Li Lizhu asked, blushing. "Lizhu." Li Lizhu shyly lowered her head and adjusted her hair to hide her embarrassment, though she tried to remain calm. "Keep going, liar." Qingxiu nodded, "All right, I'll keep lying. No, I'll keep explaining. Lizhu, you may not know this, but I'm acting on orders." "On orders?" Li Lizhu looked at him, confused. Qingxiu replied seriously, "Yes, your father asked me to do it." Li Lizhu was shocked. "Why would father ask you to do that?" Qingxiu explained, "His Majesty wants to go to war with the Turks but lacks a legitimate excuse. He can't just detain the Turkic princess without reason. But she tried to bribe me with money, so detaining her became justified. Is that explanation acceptable to the princess?" Li Lizhu was stunned. "Why didn't I know any of this?" "No one told you. You were just uninformed." Li Lizhu blinked blankly. "I really don't know much about politics, and I'm not interested. But right now, our military strength in Chang'an is far inferior to the Turks. Why would father go to war?" Qingxiu smiled and said, "That's where you're mistaken. His Majesty recently received new weapons. You know about that, right?" Li Lizhu nodded, "Yes. Cannons and grenades, right? Don't tell me you gave them to father?" "Smart girl. You guessed it right." Li Lizhu smiled slightly, "If father decided to fight the Turks using your weapons, they must be incredibly powerful. That's not surprising." Qingxiu grinned, "You have that much faith in me?" Li Lizhu said, "Of course. There's a saying now, if it's made by Marquis Qing, it must be excellent." Qingxiu leaned in close, face nearly touching hers, and smiled, "So, do you still think I've been flirting with the Turkic princess lately?" Not the Turkic princess, it was Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan, the two sisters singing in harmony. At such a close distance, Li Lizhu couldn't help but feel nervous. Her blushing face pressed against the carriage wall, but there was no room to back away. Why is he leaning in so close? Is he going to kiss me? In that moment, Li Lizhu panicked like crazy. Husband? That one word, husband, made Li Lizhu a little flustered. But she kept her composure and calmly pushed Qingxiu's approaching face away with her palm. Her cheeks were flushed pink as she said with a hint of disdain, "You're way too shameless. Whose husband are you? We're not even married yet, don't speak nonsense." Yes. Qingxiu nodded repeatedly, shamelessly replying, "Then I'll wait another 10 days or half a month before I start calling myself your husband." Li Lizhu wanted to speak but stopped. She didn't refute his words. With a slight wave of her delicate hand, she said mockingly, "Since you say detaining the Turkic princess was part of your mission, this princess will reluctantly believe you this time." At that moment, Wei Laojiu's voice came from outside, "Marquis, princess, we've arrived at Furong Garden." Qingxiu jumped off the carriage first and offered his hand to help Li Lizhu down. Though the sun was shining today, the temperature was pleasant. Many people had come to Furong Garden to stroll and sign in at scenic spots, and there were quite a few on the lake boating. Dozens of small boats floated across Tsujiang Pool. Of course, Furong Garden was a royal garden. Although it was occasionally open to the public for free, not everyone had the right to row a boat on Tsujiang Pool. If there were no entry restrictions, the boats would likely fill the entire lake. Li Lizhu led Qingxiu to the small dock at Tsujiang Pool. After showing her identity, she prepared to board a royal pleasure boat. Qingxiu looked at the large boat and turned to Li Lizhu. Isn't this a bit too high profile for us? And the royal boat is so big, there's no way the two of us can row it. Li Lizhu smiled calmly. No problem. There are royal servants on board to row for us. Qingxiu shook his head with a laugh. Then we definitely shouldn't board it. We came here for a quiet boating experience. If we're not rowing, what's the point? Also, once we're inside that boat, it's just like being in a room, a change of scenery, but no real enjoyment of the lake. Li Lizhu thought for a moment, then smiled sweetly. You're right. We came here to row, and getting on that big boat would take away all the fun. Qingxiu grinned mischievously. There were at least dozens of servants on the large boat. How could anyone feel romantic like that? A small boat for two was perfect. Row out far, slip into the reeds of Furong Garden, and then do whatever they wanted. A private date is for doing things. Third wheels not allowed. Li Lizhu promptly told the royal boatman, we won't board this boat. Go prepare a small boat like the ones on the lake, now. The boatman quickly complied. Once they boarded, Wei Laojiu smiled from the shore. Marquis, have fun. I'll wait here. Qingxiu waved and began rowing the boat himself. As he rowed, he happily sang in a low voice, let us row the boat together, little boat pushing through the waves. Li Lizhu quietly listened, and when he finished, she clapped and laughed. That was wonderful. This is the first time I've heard such a melodic tune. Sing another one. Qingxiu shook his head. Nope, not singing. Why not? Li Lizhu frowned. Shamelessly, Qingxiu said, unless you kiss me, then I'll sing. Li Lizhu blushed and scolded, it's just a song. Why are you so petty? Asking this princess to kiss you? If you want to sing, sing, if not, forget it. Qingxiu grinned, no kiss? Then at least call me husband, that should be acceptable, right? Although Li Lizhu was embarrassed, she thought it wasn't a big deal. Sooner or later, she'd have to call him that anyway. Blushing, she lowered her head and softly said, husband. But the moment she saw the smile on Qingxiu's face, she suddenly felt like she had been tricked. In fact, Qingxiu never expected her to kiss him. This was their first date alone. Asking for a kiss right away wouldn't fly with most women, let alone one from ancient times. He just wanted her to call him husband, but if he asked directly, she'd probably say no. So he made a fake demand first, let her refuse, then backed off to something lesser. He knew how to manipulate people's hearts well. Ah? Qingxiu responded with a grin and rowed harder. Soon, they reached a quieter spot in the middle of the lake. Li Lizhu urged, didn't you say you'd sing? Go ahead then. Qingxiu cleared his throat and said, all right, here goes. Under Li Lizhu's expectant gaze, Qingxiu began to sing. When will the bright moon appear? I raise my wine and ask the sky. I long to ride the wind and return, but the high places are too cold. How does it compare to life on earth? Li Lizhu's beautiful eyes sparkled as she stared at him. Did you compose that? Qingxiu shook his head. Strictly speaking, it's not a song, it's a poem. Li Lizhu grew excited. The imagery in that poem is stunning. When did you write it? Why haven't I heard it before? Shamelessly, Qingxiu replied, I wrote it long ago. Just hadn't shared it yet. What's the title? Li Lizhu asked. Shui Diogu Tu. Li Lizhu sighed, even the title fits the occasion. You really are a great talent. Qingxiu pretended to be upset. Lizhu, don't keep calling me you or Marquis Qing. We're on a private lake date, this is about bonding. Privately, just call me husband. Li Lizhu blushed and rolled her eyes. In your dreams. Sigh. Qingxiu sighed. If you won't, then forget it. Li Lizhu blinked, cheeks still red, but she smiled playfully. If you compose a poem just for me and I like it, I'll call you husband in private. How's that? Oh? Qingxiu began searching through his internal poetry library. On a distant part of the lake, a small boat drifted gently. A girl in green robes let out a small and pointed toward the center of the lake. Miss, look, isn't that Marquis Qing? A young lady in pink, graceful and elegant, looked closely and said in surprise, it really is Marquis Qing. The girl in green grinned. What luck, miss. Fate brought you here. Let's go greet him. Didn't you always want to thank him for that gift he gave you? Xiao Cui, let's not, Yan Yusha replied, her expression a little sad as she watched Qingxiu chatting happily with a white-robed woman. If Marquis Qing is with another lady, we'd only be interrupting their moment. It'd be rude. Xiao Cui frowned. That's not necessarily true. He gave you a gift, clearly he likes you. Marquis Qing is an open and generous man. Even if we are a little impolite, he won't mind. Besides, don't let all those rules of virtue make you miss a rare chance encounter. Before Yen Yusher could respond, Xiao Cui had already said to the boatman, "Boatman, I'll give you 10 extra coins, take us to that lone boat in the center of the lake." "Got it," the boatman replied, and began rowing eagerly. In no time, they approached the boat carrying Qing Xiu and Li Lizhu. "Have you finished yet?" Li Lizhu urged impatiently when Qing Xiu remained silent for a while. Finished, finished." Qing Xiu stretched his hands and took off the blindfold on his face, instantly putting on a look of deep affection as he gazed at Li Lizhu. Under Li Lizhu's expectant eyes, Qing Xiu read aloud with great emotion. "Clouds think of her clothes, flowers think of her face. The spring breeze brushes the threshold, and the dew shines bright. If not for seeing her atop Jade Mountain, then I must have met her under the moon at Jade Terrace. Sorry, brother Li Bai." Qing Xiu silently apologized in his heart to Li Bai. Yen Yusher and Xiaocui, who were already close by, also heard the poem and were instantly enchanted by its imagery. "Miss, this poem is truly beautiful," Xiaocui said admiringly. As a maid from a scholarly family and raised in the Yen household, Xiaocui's literary education was excellent, better than many scholars. She could immediately recognize the poem's brilliance. As for Yen Yusher, the eldest daughter of the Yen family, she was deeply moved by the poem as well. Xiaocui thought for a moment and said, "Miss, this poem sounds like it's describing a beautiful woman." Yen Yusher, looking enviously at Princess Xiangqing on the opposite boat, nodded. "It certainly is about a beauty. It must be a poem that Mr. Qing wrote for the lady in front of him. It's so well written." To say she wasn't jealous would be a lie. At this moment, she deeply wished Qing Xiu would write her a poem too. As the poem came out of his mouth, Li Lizhu was stunned on the spot. She softly repeated the poem to herself, then, with eyes slightly red, lowered her head and asked in a trembling voice, "You wrote this for me?" Qing Xiu shamelessly nodded, half joking, "Is it well written? I don't know if you like it, are you satisfied?" With tears in her eyes and a smile blooming like a flower, Li Lizhu nodded repeatedly. "I love it. I really do. I'm very satisfied." Qing Xiu smiled calmly, "Since you like it, and you're satisfied, then what comes next?" Li Lizhu's face turned crimson. She gently wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and, full of shyness, said, "Husband." This husband was full of confidence, it came from the heart. Not far away, Xiaocui's jaw dropped in shock, and Yen Yusher couldn't believe her ears. Xiaocui whispered in disbelief, "Oh my God, miss, she actually called Mr. Qing her husband?" Yen Yusher frowned. "But we've been to Sanha village many times and seen his 3 wives, this isn't one of them. And yet she calls him husband, this." They couldn't quite make sense of it. In fact, Qing Xiu had already noticed them. Not just them, he had clearly seen every face on the lake from his god's eye perspective. But with Li Lizhu present, he couldn't just go over and greet Yen Yusher. Just then, the boatman rowing for Yen Yusher smiled and said in a rough voice, "Ladies, we've arrived. Time to pay." His loud voice also caught Li Lizhu's attention. She turned and looked in their direction. Yen Yusher and Xiaocui's expressions froze. Xiaocui, fuming, glared at the boatman. "Can't you speak more quietly? It's just 10 coins, you think I won't pay?" She pulled out a handful of copper coins from her pouch and handed them over. Their boat was less than 10 meters away. Seeing that they'd been noticed, Yen Yusher didn't hide and gracefully gave a greeting. "Yen Yusher greets Mr. Qing." Qing Xiu acted as though he'd just noticed her. "Ah, so it's Miss Yusher. Didn't expect to meet you here." Li Lizhu looked puzzled, but also slightly sour. "Didn't expect you to have so many female friends. Even a random boat ride on the lake turns into a romantic reunion. I wonder how many more you've got hidden." Qing Xiu laughed. "What nonsense. I only met Miss Yusher in late spring, just twice. This is the 3rd time we've met. Don't say things like that." Though a little jealous, Li Lizhu accepted his explanation and said, "Well, since she's an acquaintance, exchanging a few words is only polite." Qing Xiu joked, "You're not even married to me yet and already acting like a wife. Can I take this as a sign that you're jealous?" Who's jealous? Don't talk nonsense." Li Lizhu looked away, her face red and flustered. Yen Yusher saw their affection and felt disappointed and bitter. She didn't want to intrude, so she told the boatman, "Let's go back to the shore." Xiaocui tugged her sleeve. "Miss, we just got here and haven't even started the lake tour, leaving now is too soon." Just as Yen Yusher was about to respond, Xiaocui smiled at Qing Xiu and said, "Mr. Qing, we recognized you from a distance and came over to say hello. Please forgive the interruption." Qing Xiu smiled and waved. "No worries." Xiaocui continued, "We overheard you composing poetry earlier. My lady and I greatly admire your talent. Might we stay and listen?" "Xiaocui, you," Yen Yusher looked at her, clearly annoyed. But Xiaozue, determined for her lady's happiness, maintained her courteous tone. If it's inconvenient for Mr. Qing, we'll leave right away. Li Lizhu, sharp as ever, clearly heard the meaning behind those words. She whispered to Qing Xiu, "It's up to you." Qing Xiu turned to Xiaozue and said, "Miss Xiaozue, today I'm on a date with my fiancée. With a beauty by my side and a lovely scene before me, I hope you understand." "Oh, then we've disturbed you." Xiaozue bowed slightly and said to the boatman, "Let's go back to shore." The boatman began rowing away. Once their boat was some distance away, Li Lizhu smiled. That made Xiaozue sounded like she was speaking up for her lady. "I think there's definitely a story between you and her." Qing Xiu said seriously, "Heaven knows, earth knows, you can't accuse me unfairly. I'm your husband, don't you trust me even a little?" Seeing him getting upset, Li Lizhu quickly said, "I was just guessing, you mustn't take it seriously." Seeing that Qing Xiu remained silent, Li Lizhu grew anxious. "Are you really mad at me?" "Yes," Qing Xiu nodded. "I'm mad. Now coax me." Flustered, Li Lizhu blushed, leaned in quickly, and planted a kiss on his cheek. Tugging on his sleeve pitifully, she said, "I was really just guessing, don't be mad, husband." Qing Xiu hadn't been mad at all. Who could stop a woman from getting jealous? She was a noble princess, and even knowing he already had other wives, she was still willing to be his concubine. With such affection, a little jealousy was nothing. "If you kissed me on the lips, I wouldn't be mad anymore." Li Lizhu's face turned completely red as she hesitated, but Qing Xiu didn't give her the chance. With a startled squeal from her, he pulled her into his arms and kissed her deeply and fiercely. Xiaozue followed behind Yan Yushi onto the shore, grumbling under her breath, "This is such a letdown. We've been on the lake for less than half an hour, and now we're going home. We rarely get a chance to come out and play." Yan Yushi smiled back, "Tsujiang Pool is always here, it's not going anywhere. We can come boating anytime." "Sigh," Xiaozue said sadly, "Miss, are you very upset right now?" Yan Yushi forced a smile, pretending to be calm. "Why would I be upset? There's nothing between me and Mr. Qing, we've only met 3 times. That's all." "All right, Xiaozue, let's not dwell on this. We'll talk after we get home." Just as the two were about to leave, voices from nearby caught their attention. "Is everything ready?" "All ready, we can move anytime. I'll fine-tune the plan. We'll split into 5 groups and form a surrounding formation. Be sure to kill the blind man in 1 strike." "Understood. Board the boats." Hearing this, Yan Yushi trembled. She turned to Xiaozue and asked nervously, "Xiaozue, did you hear what they just said?" Xiaozue frowned. "I heard it. They said something about killing a blind man with 1 strike. Oh no, they're not planning to assassinate Mr. Qing, are they?" Yan Yushi's face changed. She looked toward the center of the lake, her expression full of worry. But it was too far. From the shore, she had no way of warning Mr. Qing. She became extremely anxious. Xiaozue said urgently, "Miss, what should we do if they want to kill Mr. Qing? Should we report it to the authorities?" Yan Yushi trembled. "There's no time. Right now, we must warn Mr. Qing and tell him to run. If they surround him, it'll be too late." Xiaozue looked terrified. "But there are over 10 of them. Even if we scream, he won't hear us from this distance." "No way." Yan Yushi stomped her foot, lifted her skirt, and rushed back to the boat they had used. "Boatman, head for the center of the lake as fast as you can. To the boat with the young man and lady, hurry." She pulled out a piece of silver and tossed it onto the boat. The boatman's eyes lit up at the sight of silver. "All right. Hold on tight, my boat's known for its speed." And he began rowing with all his strength. Xiaozue shouted anxiously from the shore, "Miss. Wait for me, I haven't boarded yet." Yan Yushi realized too late she had left Xiaozue behind and shouted, "Xiaozue, go report to the authorities. Miss, take care of yourself. Don't be reckless." Xiaozue was nearly in tears from worry but had no choice. She sprinted off to find the authorities. If anything happened to the Yan family's eldest daughter, Xiaozue would be held accountable. Center of the lake. Li Lizhu used all her strength to push Qing Xiu away. Her face flushed bright red, she gasped for air. The intense kiss had left her tongue-tied. You, I'm too embarrassed to face anyone now. Wah. She covered her face with both hands, burying it. Although she let out sobbing sounds, Qing Xiu could tell she wasn't really crying, she was pretending to hide her shyness. "How did it feel?" Qing Xiu asked with a smile. Li Lizhu snapped, still covering her face, "Don't talk." "Shut up. How could you treat me like that? I'm going to tell Father and Mother Empress that you bullied me. I'm no longer pure." Qing Xiu froze. "Am I really that dirty? Anyway, I'm not clean anymore." She kept her face buried, but her pink ears made it obvious how embarrassed she was. So what now? Qingxiu said, pretending to struggle. I kissed you, you're not clean. Logically, you should get revenge. How about you kiss me like I kissed you? That way, I won't be clean either, we'll be even. Come on. Shamelessly, he leaned his head forward. Li Lizhu was both angry and embarrassed. She pushed his head away. You, get lost. Don't come near me. Qingxiu laughed heartily. Just then, a voice called out from afar. Mr. Qing. Using his godlike vision, Qingxiu saw that Yan Yushi had come back, even though she had gone ashore. But Xiaocui wasn't with her, and Yan Yushi looked panicked and anxious. What's going on? Qingxiu frowned deeply. He couldn't hear her clearly, it was too far. Still pouting, Li Lizhu looked over and said, Hey, is someone calling you? Qingxiu nodded. Yeah, sounds like it. Li Lizhu looked as well and narrowed her eyes. Looks like that Miss Yushi who left earlier. Yan Yushi was waving desperately and shouting, Mr. Qing, someone wants to kill you. Run. There's no time. Li Lizhu's face changed. And Mr. Qing? I think I heard her say someone wants to kill you, she said run. Qingxiu replied solemnly, yes, I heard it too. Through his elevated view, he had already seen 5 small boats approaching, each with 3 masked black-clothed men, 15 total. All of them were armed with short swords. They were clearly here with hostile intent. What should we do? Li Lizhu's face went pale as she clung to Qingxiu. Qingxiu pulled her into his arms and said softly, Don't worry. I'm here. I won't let anyone hurt you. Li Lizhu blushed, muttered, They're here to kill you. If I get hurt, it's because of you. Of course it's your job to protect me. Ah, fair enough. On one of the boats, a black-clad man pointed at Yan Yushi and shouted, Little slut. Mind your own business. Keep yelling and I'll drown you right here. Yan Yushi turned pale but didn't stop, instead, she shouted louder at Qingxiu's direction. You bitch. Want to die? Enraged, one of the men raised his arm and flicked a mechanism. With a swish, a featherless sharp arrow flew straight at Yan Yushi's face. The man was wearing a hidden wrist-mounted crossbow. Qingxiu, who had been observing everything, was alarmed. A bad feeling surged in his heart. However, what Qingxiu worried about never happened. Because the boat carrying Miss Yan Yushi was being rowed roughly, it kept rocking, the arrow passed with a whistle right past her ear. Yan Yushi was so scared her legs turned to jelly and she nearly lost her senses. Seeing the first arrow miss, the masked man cursed in anger and pressed the catch on his wrist again. This time, he aimed not at her head, but at her body. Due to the rocking of the boat, the arrow whistled and struck several inches below her shoulder. Did I get shot? A thought rose in Yan Yushi's mind, am I going to die? Severe pain washed over her. She lost her footing and fell headfirst into Tsujiang Pond. The boatman was terrified, his face pale. He ducked into the cabin and hid his head, not daring to stick out. After a long moment with no sound around, he peeked out and saw the boat had drifted far away. This is sinful, miss, you're just asking for trouble. He stomped his foot anxiously. Not wanting to be implicated in a murder, he hesitated, then jumped into the lake to pull her out. Yan Yushi's face was pale, she coughed violently, spewing out mouthfuls of lake water. After nearly drowning from the fall, the choking sensation made her feel like she might die. After coughing up lots of water, her head slumped and she didn't move at all. Qingxiu and Li Lizhu both saw her fall and disappearance clearly. Li Lizhu's face turned ashen. In a trembling voice she whispered, Miss Yushi, won't she die? Qingxiu shook his head, speaking heavily, I don't know. If she, or I, die. No, she won't. Li Lizhu hurriedly shook her head. My husband, don't worry. Miss Yushi will be fine. First, let's figure out how to handle this situation. As the 5 boats drew ever closer, Li Lizhu's heart pounded in her throat. She unconsciously gripped Qingxiu's hand tightly. Qingxiu calmed himself, saying, the crossbow arrows might be poisoned. Lizhu, lie down. If you don't rise up, don't show your head. What? Poisoned? Li Lizhu trembled, her voice quivering. Then what will you do? If you're hit, if the poison acts, sniff. She couldn't say more. Tears began to flow involuntarily. Lie down. Don't slow me down. Li Lizhu didn't hesitate any further and pressed herself flat into the cabin. Qingxiu moved to the front of the boat, away from Li Lizhu's position, to prevent her being accidentally hurt. A cold determination crossed his face as he murmured, it's time to test the body's enhancements. His strange ability, though growing slowly, increased daily. Strength and reaction were so strong now he was frightening. Soon, the 5 boats and 15 men were within 10 meters of Qingxiu. The masked leader shouted, attack. 15 men without warning raised their arms and pressed the triggers. 15 featherless bolts flew at once. Xiao drew his bladed staff in hand, spun it into a flower pattern, producing crisp ting-ting-ting sounds as he intercepted and knocked all the bolts into the lake. He said nothing further, for even asking who sent them would yield no result. Now the priority was wiping out most of them, then capturing 2 alive for questioning. The masked leader gasped in disbelief. He couldn't believe that a blind man had blocked all the arrows. Such dense coverage, no normal soldier, much less a blind man, could fully block them. Everyone froze for a moment. Taking advantage, Xiao reached into his pouch, pulled out gold beads, and flicked one sharply. With a dull puff, it struck one masked man squarely between the eyes, creating a bloody cavity on his forehead. The body collapsed lifelessly on the boat. Without hesitation, another bead was thrown, like a bullet in force, and another man fell the same way. As 2 bodies dropped, the remaining assassins panicked. The masked leader bellowed, "Shoot arrows. Don't give him a chance to strike back, or we all die here." From start to finish, they didn't realize what Xiao was throwing. They just saw him flick his wrist once and comrades dropped with bloody holes in their foreheads. It chilled them. At his command, all rose arms and fired again. Xiao swung his staff swiftly, every incoming bolt struck and fell into the lake. The masked leader shouted again, "You idiots, don't aim at one spot. Spread out. Shoot at every part of his body." They changed tactic and shot at various parts of his body. But they overlooked Xiao's water training. Not only did the blind man block every bolt, his movements were fluid as flowing clouds, each motion graceful and beautiful. No noise remained. Panic returned to the leader's voice. "Why aren't we moving? Shoot." One man sighed, "Boss, we ran out of arrows." "Already finished them? This fast?" The leader was stunned. 15 men, just 15 bolts total, and not a single bolt hit his clothes. Bored him, close combat. The leader waved his hand. 1 man per boat started rowing. Xiao laughed. He began flicking more gold beads. In just 5 throws, the 5 men rowing were struck in their heads and died instantly. The other 8 assassins were terrified, fearing their own heads would be pierced next. "Use the bodies as shields," someone shouted. A dead body was lifted and used as cover. Another recklessly boarded Xiao's boat and tried to strike. Xiao kicked the corpse aside, dodged one slash, and with a sweep of his staff he slit the throat of the first boarding attacker, then the second, then the third. All 4 who boarded first were eliminated. The remaining 2 men panicked. 11 out of 15 were dead within moments. Nothing had gone according to their plan, and they lost control. Board together, if we can't kill him, we're dead anyway. 4 leaped aboard at once. The small boat nearly capsized under weight, but Xiao planted his foot firmly and stabilized it. Then one by one he killed 2 of them. The final 2 remained. One was the leader. Xiao swung the staff and struck the leader's skull with the shaft. His eyes rolled back and he collapsed unconscious in the cabin. The last assassin, in pure terror, dropped his weapon and dove into the lake, swimming desperately toward the shore, just wanting to escape this slaughter. This blind man was simply too terrifying. Xiao didn't hesitate. He scooped up another bead, grabbed the assassin from the water, and flicked it, piercing his heart. The man thrashed a few times, then went completely still. It wasn't that they were weak. Xiao was just overwhelmingly powerful. Though these men might surpass ordinary soldiers, against Xiao they were utterly outmatched. In this abnormal strength's presence, it was a one-sided fight. The assassination attempt barely began before it ended. The fierce fight ceased. Ling Lizhu, hearing no more sounds, nervously lifted her head to look around. At that moment, a voice from behind her, Xiao's voice, said, "Stay down and don't move." Ling Lizhu's heart tightened. She asked in a trembling voice, "Is the danger not over yet? Are you hurt?" Xiao replied calmly, "The danger is over. I'm not injured." "Then why do you still want me to stay down and not move?" Xiao explained, "There are corpses everywhere in the water. I'm afraid if you see them, you'll have nightmares at night." After hearing that, Ling Lizhu's heart warmed. She sat up and said, "It's fine. I just won't look into the water." Xiao walked over to the unconscious death warrior, nudged him with his foot to turn him over, then lifted his chin and carefully checked inside his mouth. "What are you looking for?" Ling Lizhu asked in confusion. "Seeing if he has any poison in his mouth." "There can be poison hidden in the mouth?" Ling Lizhu was quite puzzled. Xiao thought to himself, that's how they do it in theater dramas. Death warriors usually carry strong poison pills in their mouths. If the mission fails, they bite down and die instantly. But Xiao searched for a long time and found no poison. Seems like theater dramas aren't always reliable. He tore a large piece of cloth from a corpse to use as a rope and tied up the unconscious warrior's hands and feet. Then Xiao started rowing in the direction Yu Shiyan had gone. Very soon, Qingxiu caught up with the boat Yu Shiyan was on. How is she? Qingxiu asked. The boatman was trembling all over. Shaking his head and stammering, he said, I don't know. I pulled this girl up, and she hasn't moved since. I don't know if she's dead or alive. Qingxiu jumped onto the other boat, first checking Yu Shiyan's breath. There was none. But he could still hear a faint heartbeat. His face changed, and without hesitation, he began pressing on her chest. It felt big and soft, but Qingxiu had no dirty thoughts at that moment. He only wanted to save Yu Shiyan as quickly as possible. The wound from the arrow wasn't fatal. What caused her to go into shock was inhaling too much water. But after pressing for a long time, there was still no reaction from Yu Shiyan. Ling Lizhu covered her mouth and asked anxiously, How is she? Is she already dead? She's not dead. There's still hope. Qingxiu turned to the boatman and said, Turn around. I told you not to look. Oh. The boatman, still terrified from earlier when Qingxiu killed a dozen men like slicing vegetables, quickly turned his back and didn't dare look. Qingxiu then pried open Yu Shiyan's little cherry-like mouth and began mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Seeing this, Ling Lizhu was completely stunned. She stared, her mind in chaos. Oh my god, she's already dead, and he's still trying to kiss her and take advantage? No, he must have his reasons for doing this. Ling Lizhu chose to temporarily trust Qingxiu's character. And so, Qingxiu alternated between chest compressions and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. About half a tea's time later, Yu Shiyan suddenly spat out a large mouthful of water, then took a deep breath and started coughing violently, tears and snot streaming from choking. Damn it, finally saved her. Qingxiu sat back in the cabin, letting out a relaxed smile. Ling Lizhu also looked happy and exclaimed, She's okay. She actually came back to life. After a short while, Yu Shiyan, her face pale, looked at Qingxiu and suddenly asked nervously, You're not dead? So many people had gone to kill him just now, yet here he was, standing in front of her unharmed? Qingxiu felt a pang in his heart and muttered softly, What a silly girl. She was nearly dead herself, yet the first thing she did after waking up was worry about someone else. Honestly, Qingxiu was touched by her. Ling Lizhu was also a bit dazed by the scene, but quickly recovered and asked, Miss Shiyan, are you all right? Yu Shiyan let out a sigh of relief and said, I thought I was going to die. I didn't expect to still be alive. Mr. Qing, all those people went to kill you, and you weren't even hurt. Then, where are those people? Don't worry about them for now, Qingxiu said. Do you feel any discomfort in your body? Yu Shiyan finally felt a sharp pain from her shoulder and couldn't help but cry out. She gently touched the wound and saw her hand covered in blood. It hurts a bit, she said, tears filling her eyes, looking pitiful. Qingxiu found her silly expression amusing, but he couldn't laugh in this situation. He said, Bear with it. I'll pull out the arrow for you. Ah? Won't that hurt a lot? It's fine. It won't hurt much. Qingxiu smiled and placed his hand on the arrow. That smile seemed magical, and Yu Shiyan instinctively nodded. Qingxiu didn't hesitate any longer and yanked the arrow out. With a squelch, a gush of fresh blood came out. Yu Shiyan screamed in pain and fainted again. Qingxiu quickly picked her up and jumped back onto the boat, rowing toward the shore as fast as possible. Miss! A girl in green, Xiaocui, ran over crying, her face covered in tears. Seeing her unconscious mistress, she broke down, crying loudly. Lord Qing, I heard you were attacked. Are you hurt? An official in his 60s, dressed in formal robes, approached with a team of government soldiers. This was Lu Xingmin from Chang'an. Lu Xingmin was soaked from head to toe. When he received the report, he was so scared he nearly lost control of his bowels. He immediately brought all the soldiers from Yongzhou Prefecture, several hundred of them, and rushed to Furong Garden. As a local official, and a court official under the emperor, if a noble lord like Qingxiu were assassinated, he and his entire family might be buried with him. Now seeing Qingxiu unharmed, Lu Xingmin collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath, wiping sweat and trembling, saying, Dear heavens, I was scared to death. Thank heaven you're safe, Lord Qing, or I wouldn't have been able to atone for it even with 100 deaths. What are you all standing there for? Lu Xingmin shouted back, Go into the pond and catch the culprits. Qingxiu shook his head, No need. They've all been dealt with. Ling Lizhu said quietly, There are a few disciples of imperial physicians on the royal boat. Let's bring Miss Shiyan there first and let the young doctors treat her. Qingxiu nodded, pushed Xiaocui aside, and carried Yu Shiyan toward the royal boat. Xiaocui ran behind crying, Mr. Qing, my lady ended up like this to save you. You must save her. Don't worry, Miss Xiaocui. As long as I'm here, your lady will be fine. Although he didn't know why, Xiaocui had an unusual amount of trust in him. Li Lizhu revealed her identity as a princess. The few young physicians on duty here all scrambled to show off and volunteered to treat Yan Yusher's injuries. Li Lizhu didn't know who to choose. After all, Miss Shiyan's injury was in a rather sensitive area. Her entire left chest was soaked in blood. The wound was likely on her chest. She looked at Qingxiu awkwardly. Qingxiu also understood what she was worried about. Men and women should keep their distance. If someone saw her body, Miss Shiyan's reputation would be ruined. Qingxiu took a medical kit from one of the physicians and said, "All of you, get out. I'll do it." This. Lord Qingxiu knows medicine. Alcohol was invented by Lord Qingxiu, so he probably knows medicine too, right? Lord Qingxiu, don't push yourself. If something goes wrong, there could be serious consequences. Qingxiu said coldly, "What could go wrong? Get out." The young physicians nodded repeatedly and left sheepishly. It was obvious they were eager not out of duty, but because of how beautiful the lady was, they were just hoping to take advantage. Li Lizhu sighed, "At this point, we can only let you do it." Her expression was helpless, her gaze full of faint sorrow. Looks like her prince consort might gain another wife or concubine. Qingxiu also sighed helplessly. This is the only way. Lizhu, after you return, you should ask the emperor to establish a team of female doctors. There is one. Li Lizhu gave a bitter smile. But it's too far from the palace, going back and forth would take over an hour. Injuries can't wait. If her condition worsens due to delay, it would be terrible. Hurry now, treating Miss Shiyan comes first. She got hurt saving us. You Shiyan, internally if you two keep chatting, I might die from blood loss right here. Qingxiu seemed to hear her thoughts and no longer hesitated. He went to the bedside and opened the medical kit. The contents were complete, except for needle and thread, so the wound couldn't be stitched. Fortunately, Yu Shiyan's wound was small and didn't require stitching. Qingxiu used scissors to cut open her clothes, revealing her blood-soaked shoulder. He wiped away the blood with clean white cloth, exposing her white skin and a wound about the width of a finger. Seeing the wound, Qingxiu sighed in relief. Luckily, it didn't reach her chest. Otherwise, it would be unfortunate for the child, not even born yet and already lost a source of food. Although the shape was exquisite, round, and beautiful, this was no time for admiration. Qingxiu first disinfected the wound with alcohol, sprinkled on some medicinal powder, and bandaged it up. The treatment was complete. Yusher, an anxious voice came from outside the boat. Xiaocui immediately ran out. "Master, Miss is here, over here." A middle-aged man rushed in, his face full of panic. When he saw Yan Yusher lying on the bed, her face pale as paper, his eyes turned red and he nearly burst into tears from heartache. Qingxiu was stunned to see the man. It was Yan Shirgu. Isn't she Yu Shiyan? How is she Yan Shirgu's daughter? Could it be? Qingxiu thought for a moment and suddenly understood. He couldn't help but show a bitter smile. So Yu Shiyan was a fake name. Yan Yusher had used a false name to get close to him. Her intentions were obvious now. What happened here? Yan Shirgu looked at Xiaocui, his face full of anger. Xiaocui was terrified, tears falling as her face went pale. Qingxiu said, "Lord Yan, it's not Miss Xiaocui's fault. To be honest, this also has to do with me." Only then did Yan Shirgu notice Qingxiu and quickly saluted. "Greetings, Lord Qingxiu. Why are you here?" Qingxiu then explained the entire situation from beginning to end. Yan Shirgu sighed. This girl, always so stubborn." At this moment, Yan Yusher slowly woke up. Seeing Yan Shirgu, she forced a smile on her pale face. "Father, why are you here?" She tried to get up, but Yan Shirgu rushed forward in 3 steps and gently pushed her back down. "You're hurt, don't move. Xiaocui, go back home quickly and bring some clothes." Yan Yusher's clothes were completely soaked. It was quite a shocking scene. Qingxiu saluted and said, "Lord Yan, sorry for the trouble. Your daughter is fine now. Let's go outside and talk." Yan Shirgu nodded and saluted Li Lizhu. "Princess, I'll take my leave. You, as royalty, shouldn't be the one caring for my daughter. It breaks proper etiquette. If she needs anything, please send word." "All right." Yan Yusher nodded. Yan Shirgu also knew it wasn't appropriate for a man to stay here, not even a father. After the 2 men left, Yan Yusher was stunned. You're a princess?" Li Lizhu smiled sweetly and nodded lightly. Princess of Xiangqing? Yes. Yan Yusher's expression flashed with sadness, but it disappeared quickly. Li Lizhu hesitated for a moment, then quietly asked, "You like him?" Yan Yusher froze, forced a smile, and quickly shook her head. "No. I don't. Don't misunderstand, Your Highness." Li Lizhu smiled gently. "If you didn't like him, why would you use a fake name to get close to him?" Yan Yusher was dazed, her expression awkward. He knows too." "Yes." Li Lizhu nodded. and continued, if you didn't like him, you wouldn't have risked your life to warn him of danger. You also wouldn't have asked about him the moment you woke up. I can see it, you really like him. Yan Yushur said bitterly, but, so what? Even if I like him, he couldn't possibly like me. Because of what happened at the midsummer poetry banquet? Li Lizhu asked. Yan Yushur nodded without saying more, but her expression was filled with sorrow. Li Lizhu chuckled softly, he will like you. At the very least, after learning you're the legitimate daughter of the Yan family, he didn't hate you. And what you did today, it's hard not to like you. A bit of blush finally appeared on Yan Yushur's pale face from shyness. Suddenly, Li Lizhu said, we're getting married soon, 3 days before the Mid-Autumn Festival. You can come and drink our wedding wine. Yan Yushur's heart skipped, was she showing off? But Li Lizhu added, you can only marry him after me, not before. I'm a princess, I can't be a concubine. You'll be his 5th concubine. If you marry before me, I wouldn't be able to hold my head high. Yan Yushur was dumbfounded. So she wasn't showing off? What do you mean? Yan Yushur was confused. Li Lizhu pointed to the area below her collarbone and said, he's seen your whole body. He's taken your virtue, so he should marry you. Who else would you marry? But you can only marry him after I do. What? He treated my wounds. Yan Yushur was shocked. She looked down at where her injury was, such an embarrassing spot. As soon as Li Er learned that Qingxiu had been assassinated, he rushed to Furong Garden. Accompanying him was Zhang Sun Wuji. The two of them were both fathers-in-law, so they were particularly concerned about Qingxiu's safety. After boarding the boat, Li Er saw Qingxiu together with Yan Shurgu and quickly walked over to ask with concern, is Lord Qing safe? Qingxiu first bowed, then replied, no serious harm. Zhang Sun Wuji also circled around him once, and after confirming that there were indeed no injuries, finally let out a sigh of relief. He didn't want his daughter to become a widow right after getting married. So arrogant, Li Er said angrily, his hair nearly standing on end. This is Chang'an, and an attempt to assassinate a state marquis right under my nose? Outrageous. If we find the mastermind, I will execute his entire clan. Zhang Sun Wuji asked gravely, son-in-law, what about those assassins? Qingxiu replied, except for one survivor, the other 14 are dead. Zhang Sun Wuji was shocked and exclaimed, there were 15 assassins in total. Qingxiu nodded. Li Er's expression darkened. Such a massive operation, 15 assassins sent out. If it weren't for Lord Qing's exceptional martial skills, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Where is the survivor? I want to interrogate him personally to see who sent assassins after Lord Qing. Qingxiu pointed to a room on the boat and said, inside, still unconscious for now. Li Er noticed Yan Shurgu and showed a hint of doubt on his face. Yan Shurgu, why are you here? Yan Shurgu sighed, Your Majesty, my daughter Yushur was also caught up in this assassination incident and was injured. This, Li Er looked at Qingxiu, eyes full of inquiry. At the same time, doubts rose in his heart, wasn't his precious daughter on the lake tour with Qingxiu? How did another daughter from the Yan family get involved? Qingxiu explained, Your Majesty, to be honest, while I was boating with Lizhu, if it weren't for Miss Yan risking her life to deliver a warning, both I and Lizhu might have drowned in the lake. Miss Yan was injured trying to save us. Yan Shurgu nodded beside him, exactly. Li Er gently nodded, Yan Shurgu, that means your daughter is the savior of Princess Xiangqing. Yan Shurgu quickly replied, I wouldn't go that far. A princess's life is priceless. If I had been there, I would have risked my life too. Li Er smiled faintly, but I'm afraid your daughter's original intention wasn't to save the princess, was it? This, Yan Shurgu looked embarrassed. Li Er smiled again, let your daughter recover first. Come, let's go see the survivor. The group made their way to the room where the survivor was being held. Upon hearing people entering, the survivor, tied tightly with 5 ropes, trembled slightly. Qingxiu walked over and kicked him, saying coldly, stop pretending. I know you're awake. Only then did the survivor open his eyes, showing a will to die. He tilted his head with a cold tone, kill or torture me, do as you wish. There's no mastermind. I just wanted to kill the blind man. Li Er sneered, you think I'll believe that? In the Dali Temple, we have many methods to make people confess. If you don't want to suffer, then be honest and tell me who sent you. Otherwise, humph. You're the emperor? The assassin's face clearly changed, filled with shock. He hadn't expected the emperor himself would come to interrogate him. But he quickly remembered his mission and coldly said again, so what if you're the emperor? I'm dead either way. Li Er said coldly, speak truthfully, and I'll give you a quick death, even leave you a whole corpse. Haha. The assassin laughed scornfully. What's the point of keeping the body whole after death? It's just more pain before dying. I've endured 30 years of hardship. Whatever tricks you've got, bring them on. If I frown, I'm not a man. Li Er's expression sank. If not for yourself, then think of your family. I'll give you one last chance, confess, and I won't harm your relatives. Refuse, and I'll execute your entire clan. The assassin sneered. Family? All dead long ago. Give it up. Seems you're a tough one, Li Er said. He turned to Wang De, go inform Daizhou. Send someone to take him to Dali Temple for interrogation, use any means necessary to make him reveal the mastermind. Wang De answered and was about to leave. But Qingxiu said, wait a moment, Lord Wang. What instructions does Lord Qing have? Li Er also asked, what is it, Lord Qing? Qingxiu said, since he's ready to die, even torture might not get any useful information. So, how about? Give him a quick death? Zhang Sun Wuji frowned. That's too easy for him. Qingxiu chuckled, it won't be easy. Leave it to me. Everyone looked surprised. Qingxiu said to Wang De, please prepare 2 copper basins. Li Er asked curiously, what for? Qingxiu smiled innocently, Your Majesty, recently I've been conducting an experiment with Taoist Sunday. We need test subjects. This assassin is perfect, we can test him before he dies. Oh? Li Er was intrigued. What kind of experiment? Qingxiu said, we're studying how much blood is in the human body, and how long it takes to drain it all out. Li Er's face changed and darkened. Lord Qing, if Taoist Sun proposed such an experiment, I might believe it's for science. But why are you involved in this nonsense? Qingxiu bowed and said, I ask for your Majesty's permission to draw his blood. He wants to die anyway, why waste the opportunity? Li Er's face remained dark, but he nodded, fine, do as you wish. The assassin's eyes widened, and a strange fear appeared on his face. Seeing the blind man reveal a strange smile with sharp white teeth before approaching, his heart suddenly panicked. Was he really going to bleed him out until death? The assassin fell into deep unease and fear. After they left the room, Li Er frowned and said to Qingxiu, Lord Qing, your and Taoist Sun's experiment is rather inhumane. But since they tried to kill you, I suppose they brought it upon themselves. They deserve no pity. Qingxiu smiled faintly, Your Majesty, I only said that to scare him. I'm not actually going to bleed him. Oh? Then what are you? Li Er looked puzzled. Zhang Sun Wuji and Yan Shirgu also looked confused. Qingxiu chuckled, soon, you'll all know what I'm going to do. Very soon, Wang De had 2 copper basins and a small bamboo tube brought in. The tube was hollow, one end sharp. There was also a wooden bucket filled with water. Seeing the items in front of them, Li Er, Zhang Sun Wuji, and Yan Shirgu all looked confused. Qingxiu smiled and said, everyone, the interrogation can begin now. Wasn't he going to bleed him? How did this turn into an interrogation? Please don't speak for a while. Just watch what I do and you'll understand. Qingxiu carried a copper basin and instructed Li Er's attendant to bring the rest of the items into the room where the assassin was held. Qingxiu whispered, I'll go in first. When I give you the signal, then come in. Don't say a word. Everyone nodded, all looking curious. Qingxiu carried the copper basin and pushed the door open. All right, let's begin the bloodletting now. Qingxiu had an expectant and excited smile on his face. He tied the assassin to a chair. The assassin struggled constantly. What are you going to do? What are you doing to me? Bastard, just give me a quick death if you have the guts. If I let you die quickly, how will I watch how long it takes for someone to bleed to death? Qingxiu said, then wrapped the assassin's whole face in layers of black cloth, leaving only a breathing hole under his nose. After making sure the man couldn't see, he signaled the people outside. Li Er and the others came in one by one. Qingxiu placed the water bucket on a higher spot and the copper basin below. Then he stabbed the assassin's arm hard with a bamboo tube. The assassin let out a miserable scream, and his body began to tremble with fear. Total darkness, unable to see anything, plus the pain from his arm, his fear quickly spread. When a person faces the unknown in darkness, it can create extreme fear, much more than torture itself. Everyone stared at Qingxiu's actions without blinking. Next, Qingxiu connected the bamboo tube to the water bucket and fixed it in place. Water started dripping from the tube into the copper basin. Qingxiu turned to the others, smiling, and said happily, all right, let the bloodletting begin. I wonder how long he'll take to bleed to death. You there, stay and watch him. If the basin gets full, dump it and switch to another. Remember, don't respond to him, don't say a single word. Just be in charge of dumping the blood. Qingxiu leaned close to the guard's ear and whispered, act well, don't mess it up. The guard nodded curiously without saying a word. Qingxiu then smiled, all right, let's go drink somewhere. Qingxiu left the room with the others. After they walked a bit, Li Er was dumbfounded. Wait, Lord Qing, what exactly are you doing? Weren't you going to bleed him? Why did you start dripping water? Exactly, I was waiting to see how long it takes a man to bleed to death. Zhang Sun Wuji shook his head in disappointment. Qingxiu smirked, the bleeding was just for him to hear, not real. What if we really bled him to death before he confessed? We haven't even gotten the name of the mastermind. How could I let him die? Then what's with all this nonsense? Zhang Sun Wuji scratched the back of his head in confusion. Yan Shirgu also looked totally lost. The group was genuinely confused by him. Qingxiu smiled and explained, what I said earlier was just to create a false perception of bloodletting, to make him believe we were draining his blood, so he'd think he was slowly bleeding to death. As long as we create a sound similar to bleeding and reinforce this illusion, he'll believe we're really bleeding him. With constant psychological suggestion, his fear will intensify. Also, under extreme fear, the body can feel symptoms similar to blood loss, making him think he's really dying. Maybe soon, he'll want to confess. Li Er, Zhang Sun Wuji, Yan Shirgu, and Wang De all widened their eyes in disbelief. Then they all looked at Qingxiu as if they had seen a ghost. Li Er suddenly shivered, the corners of his mouth twitching. Then he gave Qingxiu a thumbs up. What a sinister trick. How did you even come up with this? There's no torture involved, yet this is an effective interrogation method. Zhang Sun Wuji swallowed hard, saying, who knows, this assassin might really confess. Let's wait and see. Yan Shirgu said, let's be patient. So the group went up to the deck and started chatting. Yan Shirgu was distracted while talking because of his injured daughter. Li Er noticed this and patted Yan Shirgu on the shoulder, saying, your daughter sacrificed herself for others, she's a benefactor to both Lord Qing and the Princess of Xiangqing. Don't be so down. Misfortune and fortune go hand in hand. After saying that, Li Er gave Qingxiu a meaningful look. Qingxiu, being blind, didn't notice Li Er's expression. Yan Shirgu smiled bitterly, my daughter took an arrow to the left shoulder. It'll likely leave a scar. It might be hard for her to get married in the future. Li Er gave a half-smile, since she got injured saving Lord Qing, he should take responsibility. Yan Shirgu's eyes widened and he looked at Qingxiu. Zhang Sun Wuji pretended not to notice and stared into the depths of Cujiang Pond, sighing to himself, looks like there's another rival for his daughter. Qingxiu looked awkward. His Majesty is absolutely right. Since Miss Yan was injured because of me, and if she can't get married because of that, it's only right that I take responsibility. Li Er curled his lips, clearly displeased, you really don't mind, do you? If you'd even tried to refuse, I'd think more of you. Yan Shirgu, afraid this marriage might fall through, frowned and said, Lord Qing, my daughter got scarred for you. You even treated her injury, and it's in a private place, you've ruined her reputation. This can't just be brushed off. Yes, yes, yes. Qingxiu nodded repeatedly. I'll take responsibility, I definitely will. At this moment, the guard Qingxiu had left in the room came running over excitedly and said, Your Majesty, the assassin said he wants to confess. He says he'll confess everything. Li Er was delighted and urged, let's go, quickly. Find out who the mastermind is. The group rushed back to the room where the assassin was held. By now, the assassin's face was pale, his lips trembling, his whole body shaking, clearly tormented by fear. Hearing footsteps, he knew the big shots were coming. The assassin struggled and shouted, I'll confess everything. Just pull the tube out of me. Drip drip drip. The sound of water dripping into the copper basin echoed, like a death knell striking the assassin's heart. Just before, there had been no sound at all. Even knowing someone was there, no matter how he tried to talk, the person didn't say a single word. After enduring 2 incense sticks worth of psychological torment, the assassin completely broke down. And that was because he had guts. If he were any weaker, he might have lost control of his bladder and bowels already. Qingxiu pulled up a chair and sat across from the assassin, smiling, I actually liked your tough guy image earlier. Now you want to confess? It's a little late. My bloodletting experiment just started, I can't let it end so quickly. Li Er was startled and kept signaling him with his eyes. They had just managed to get the assassin to confess, and now he wasn't listening? What kind of trick was this? The assassin's face stiffened and he shouted angrily, You better think this through. I'll only give you this one chance. Pull the tube out of me and I'll reveal the mastermind behind the assassination. Otherwise, you'll never know who it was. Qingxiu sneered, even if you don't say, I already know who's behind it. I've only had a few serious enemies. Let me guess, was it one of the 5 great surnames and 7 clans? The Taiyuan Wang family or the Fanyang Lu clan? Or maybe the Zhangs of Xingyang? The assassin suddenly burst out laughing, ha ha ha, wrong. Completely wrong. Wrong? That caught Qingxiu by surprise. He immediately thought of 2 more suspects, the Dou family and Lu Shuani's relatives. The mastermind had to be one of them, but he couldn't be sure who exactly. Wrong, the assassin shook his head. No matter how hard you think, you'll never guess who really wants you dead. Then I'd like to hear it. The assassin struggled, emotions agitated, then hurry and pull the tube out of me. I'll tell you who it is as soon as you do. Qingxiu said coldly, you're in no position to bargain. Tell me the mastermind first, and I'll pull the tube out. Then, you have to keep your word. Cut the nonsense. Speak. The assassin hesitated for a moment and then said, it's Duke Xing, Lu Zhengwei. Qingxiu was a bit surprised by that answer. Zhang Sun Wuji's face changed and he looked at Li Er, who frowned and shook his head, impossible. Lu Zhengwei just sent a fast letter yesterday saying he'd arrive in Chang'an in 3 days. He couldn't be involved in an assassination today. Qingxiu began to think of multiple possibilities. One was an alibi. Lu Zhengwei had reported he'd arrive in 3 days, and the assassination took place the day before. He could use this as an excuse to escape blame. The assassin said, a few days ago, Lu Zhengwei came to the Guanyi region and found us to plan the assassination. His report about arriving in 3 days was just a way to cover himself. Now do you believe me? I really didn't lie. Li Er said sternly, do you have any evidence? The assassin shook his head, it was a verbal plan. No evidence. But I can confront Lu Zhengwei in person. Zhang Sun Wuji whispered, Your Majesty, a dying man rarely lies. Better to believe than not. The assassin said urgently, facing death, I have no reason to lie. I just want a quick end. Being bled to death like this, it's torture. Lord Qingxiu, you said you'd keep your word. Qingxiu didn't remove the bamboo tube from his arm. Instead, he ordered the black cloth to be removed from the assassin's head. Seeing the light again, the assassin was like a man reborn. He immediately looked down at the bamboo tube in his arm. What he saw shocked him. A bamboo tube was indeed inserted in his arm, but there was no blood at the end of it. The dripping sound was just water from a wooden bucket into a copper basin. He looked at Qingxiu in disbelief, his face suddenly red with embarrassment. You tricked me? You weren't bleeding me at all. Qingxiu replied calmly, correct. No blood. Just an interrogation method. The assassin's face turned ashen, then he laughed bitterly. I can't believe I was fooled by such a low-level trick. Qingxiu stood up and said to Li Er, Your Majesty, what do you think? Li Er hesitated slightly. Zhang Sun Wuji cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, attempting to assassinate a state marquis is a major crime. Lu Zhengwei's son Lu Xuanyi died at the hands of Lord Qingxiu, and Lu Zhengwei has the strongest motive. I believe Your Majesty should arrest him immediately and send him to Chang'an for questioning. Li Er frowned deeply and murmured, I still feel there's something strange about this. But since the assassin is willing to testify in person, his words hold weight. Wang De, send orders to the Black Riders. Arrest Lu Zhengwei and escort him to Chang'an as quickly as possible. Yes, Your Majesty. Wang De ran out to carry out the order. Li Er then waved to a guard, take this man to the Dali Temple. Have Daizhou find out everything about his identity. A few guards quickly took the assassin away. With everything done, Li Er found an excuse and returned to the palace. Zhang Sun Wuji chose to stay. After Li Er left, he came forward and asked, Son-in-law, do you also believe that Lu Zhengwei is behind the assassination? Qingxiu shook his head, not necessarily. But he's the most suspicious. Zhang Sun Wuji nodded, once His Majesty brings Lu Zhengwei to Chang'an, everything will be clear. I have other matters to attend to, so I'll return to the residence now. Take care, father-in-law. After seeing Zhang Sun Wuji off the boat, Qingxiu headed straight to the room where Li Lizhu and Yan Yushi were. Yan Yushi had changed into clean clothes and was now sitting up. When she saw Qingxiu come in, she bowed apologetically and said, Lord Qingxiu, I'm truly sorry. I never meant to approach you with a false identity. It's just because of what happened at the midsummer poetry banquet. I feared you'd resent me, so I used a fake name to meet you. Please forgive me. Qingxiu walked over quickly and helped her up with a faint smile, no problem. In fact, I should thank you today. If it weren't for you, the princess and I might have died at the bottom of the lake. Of course, that was just what Qingxiu said. Even without her warning, he could have easily handled those assassins. Still, his words made Yan Yushi feel a little embarrassed. Suddenly, Li Lizhu, who had been sitting on a bench, stood up and said, That's enough boating for today. Lord Qingxiu, I'm returning to the palace. Let's meet another day. Qingxiu was surprised, leaving so soon? I was planning to take you home for a meal, then go sightseeing in the afternoon. Li Lizhu smiled, glanced at Yan Yushi, then shook her head at Qingxiu, no need. We can see each other anytime. But Miss Yan's injuries are quite serious. Since she was hurt for your sake, it's only right that you take care of her. I'm leaving. After saying that, Li Lizhu walked out of the room. Yan Yushi watched her back, her eyes full of emotion and gratitude. Yan Shirgu also cupped his hands and said, Lord Qingxiu, I still have government duties and need to stop by the secretariat. I'll excuse myself. Xiaocui, your lady is injured and it's inconvenient for her to move, make sure to escort her home as soon as possible. Understood, master. Yan Shirgu also left. Xiaocui, of course, understood her master's intention. She rolled her eyes, then suddenly clutched her stomach and frowned, Miss, my stomach hurts. I need to go to the restroom. Lord Qingxiu, so sorry, I'll leave you two alone for a moment. Then Xiaocui also ran out of the room. Yan Yushi looked a little confused. Qingxiu's mouth twitched, damn, is everyone teaming up to give me a chance to flirt? Mr. Qing. Qingxiu, please sit down. A blush appeared on Yan Yushi's pale face. Sitting on the bed, she scooted over a bit. But then she seemed to think of something inappropriate, and her face turned even redder, so she pointed to the stool across from her. Why are you pointing to the stool? The Marquis is blind. Qingxiu pretended nothing happened and took 2 steps forward, accidentally kicking the stool. He nearly fell headfirst. Yan Yushi gasped and reflexively raised her hands to catch him, and Qingxiu landed right in her arms. Sorry, Miss Yan, I really can't see. I hope I didn't hurt you. Yan Yushi quickly pulled her hands back as if shocked by electricity and shook her head, trembling as she spoke, No, just be more careful, Mr. Qingxiu. Qingxiu smoothly sat beside her on the bed and asked gently, Does your wound still hurt? It's okay, it's not as painful now. I applied the medicine for you. Yan Yushi lowered her head, her mind a mess, nervously replying, I know. Thank you, Mr. Qingxiu, for applying the medicine. It's what I should do, Qingxiu said with emotion. You were injured because of me. Treating your wound is the least I can do. But, since men and women shouldn't touch, and your wound is in a rather private area, luckily I'm blind and can't see. Yan Yushi was slightly stunned, feeling more at ease, but also a bit disappointed. Her beautiful shoulder and her large chest, he couldn't even see them. What a waste. But, Qingxiu continued, there might be a scar left. You should be mentally prepared. Yan Yushi replied helplessly, there's no other choice. I've accepted it. I will take responsibility for you. Qingxiu said suddenly, leaving Yan Yushi stunned. Her face, although sickly, flushed brightly. Yan Yushi stood up in a panic, flustered and stammering, You'll take responsibility? What do you mean? Qingxiu sighed, Miss Yan, you were hurt for my sake and may have a permanent scar. Logically, I should take full responsibility for you. Yan Yushi said, a bit disappointed, so it's just because of that. It's okay, Mr. Qingxiu. If you don't like me, you don't have to take responsibility. No, that won't do. Qingxiu said righteously. Miss Yan, your self-sacrifice and noble character are admirable. I am blind and can't judge people by looks. When choosing a wife, I value moral character. You fit that perfectly. Yan Yushi was overwhelmed by these sweet words, her breathing growing rapid. Qingxiu seized the moment and added, earlier outside, your father mentioned this too. He doesn't object to me taking responsibility. As long as you're willing, I'll formally marry you. Yan Yushi was flustered beyond words. Qingxiu waited a long time without a reply, then said a bit disappointed, since Miss Yan is unwilling, let's just pretend I never said anything. I'm willing. After she said that, Yan Yushi's face turned red, and she wished she could bury herself in the quilt. Qingxiu smiled slightly, all right then. After I marry the princess, I'll come to your house to propose officially. You can't go back on your word then. Yan Yushi gave a soft hum through her nose, her shy and nervous look quite endearing. Qingxiu then gently raised his arm and pulled Yan Yushi into his embrace, letting her rest on his shoulder. He was never the kind of man to beat around the bush. Since the legitimate daughter of the Yan family was going to be his sooner or later, he figured it was better to make it official early and enjoy the wedding night sooner rather than later. However, Yan Yushi didn't seem like a pretentious girl either. She had hoped for this day in her heart, but now that it really came, she felt like she was dreaming. After a while, since it wasn't proper for a man and woman to be alone in a room, and Yan Yushi was an unmarried maiden from a well-disciplined family, she eventually urged Qingxiu to leave. She and Xiaocui then returned to the Yan residence. Over the next 2 days, Qingxiu stayed in Chang'an, accompanying Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan. Once things became familiar, after a few rounds of intimacy, Lu Yunyan was no longer as shy as before. Only the Turkic princess Ashina suffered. Every night, the sounds coming from the next room were pure torture to her. She even began to have ridiculous thoughts about joining in. Early this morning, Qingxiu went to the Taiji Hall. As the officials gathered, the case of Qingxiu's assassination attempt was brought to light. Lu Zhenghui was tall and strong, a civil and military all-rounder. After nearly 2 months, He had gradually moved on from his grief over losing his son, but when he saw Qingxiu, his eyes were full of killing intent and hatred. The assassin was also brought into the Taiji hall. Lu Zhengwei looked confused and bowed to Li Er. Your Majesty, yesterday you had the Black Riders escort me to Chang'an. May I ask why? Did I violate the laws of the Tang dynasty? The assassin kept his head down but slowly glanced at Lu Zhengwei. Li Er squinted. Seeing Lu Zhengwei's bewildered expression, he was unsure what to make of it. He got straight to the point. Duke Xing, 2 days ago, Lord Qingxiu was attacked while boating in Furong Garden. The captured assassin claimed you ordered it. Is that true? Lu Zhengwei's eyes widened and his expression changed. Your Majesty, absolutely not. I only arrived in Guangzhou 3 days ago. How could I have had time to plot an assassination against Lord Qingxiu? This is nonsense. Li Er frowned and looked at the assassin. Zhang He, what do you say? Zhang He, the assassin, looked at Lu Zhengwei and said nervously, Lord Lu, you can't deny it. That day, you gave us 2,000 taels of silver to assassinate the blind man. How can you deny it now? Lu Zhengwei stared at Zhang He and roared with rage, nonsense. I've never seen you before. Stop slandering me. Your Majesty, this is a complete setup. Please see the truth. Li Er was troubled, unsure who to believe. Zhang Sun Wuji said coldly, Lu Zhengwei, you say he's framing you? Why would he risk death to frame you? Lu Zhengwei's eyes were red and he shouted, Zhang Sun Wuji, if it happened, then it did. If not, then it didn't. I've never met this man, how could I plot with him? Your Majesty, you can't wrongly accuse me. Even Qingxiu was confused now. He wasn't sure if Zhang He was telling the truth, or if there was something deeper behind this. Lu Zhengwei loudly said, Your Majesty, he says I conspired with him. But do you have any solid proof? Li Er looked thoughtful and shook his head. No evidence, then how can it prove I did this? Your Majesty, it's true that Lord Qingxiu killed my beloved son, and I do resent him, but not enough to send assassins. I've heard that Lord Qingxiu has made many enemies, including 3 of the 5 great surnames and 7 clans. No one can guarantee it wasn't one of them trying to frame me. Please, Your Majesty, don't be fooled by a scoundrel. Lu Zhengwei spoke firmly and clearly, this wasn't my doing. The situation was becoming increasingly confusing. Chang Yaojin asked with a doubtful expression, Old Lu, even though you strongly deny being behind the assassination of Lord Qingxiu, this assassin insists that you were the mastermind. Others wouldn't falsely accuse you for no reason, would they? Lu Zhengwei responded with sorrow and anger, Old Cheng, even you don't believe me. Chang Yaojin said seriously, it's not that I don't believe you, it's just that the facts are in front of us, I have no choice but to suspect you. And it's not just me, ask the entire court of officials. Who among them doesn't suspect you? Lu Zhengwei's eyes reddened, Your Majesty, if you think this was done by me, then convict me. When someone wants to accuse, any excuse will do. This remark left Li Er at a loss. He looked at Qingxiu and asked, Lord Qingxiu, what do you think about this matter? Qingxiu pondered and said, I believe that all matters should be based on evidence. Without proof, just on one person's word, we can't convict Duke Xing. We must not wrong a good man, and we must not let any evildoer go unpunished. Lu Zhengwei replied coldly, Humph, your words sound nice. I admit, I did have thoughts of tearing Lord Qingxiu into pieces, but I truly wasn't behind this. Why should I be the one blamed for the assassination attempt? If you want to blame someone, blame Lord Qingxiu himself for being too arrogant and domineering, making too many enemies. You brought this on yourself. Qingxiu replied coldly, Duke Xing, do you know why I made so many enemies? Lu Zhengwei hesitated, then looked at Li Er. Before coming to Chang'an, he had already learned much about Qingxiu and his contributions to the Tang dynasty, meritorious and countless. As the saying goes, fortune and misfortune go hand in hand. While doing good, one inevitably offends people. Li Er waved his hand, don't blame Lord Qingxiu. The reason he made so many enemies is because he works for the good of the Tang people. Let's not talk about this now. Back to the point, we should focus on the assassination attempt. He glanced at the ministers and asked, do any civil or military officials have opinions? The officials began whispering among themselves. After a while, Fang Xianling stepped forward and said, Your Majesty, the case is murky. The assassin and Lu Zhengwei each say different things. If this goes on, there will be no conclusion. The most direct and only way now is to keep interrogating Zhang He. At the same time, send people to the places Duke Xing passed through and investigate whether he had any contact with Zhang He and others. Li Er thought for a moment and nodded, the Chancellor is right. Dai Zhou, take Zhang He to the Dali Temple and interrogate him. As long as he's alive, use any means necessary to extract the mastermind's identity. Yes, Your Majesty. Dai Zhou called 2 men from outside to take Zhang He to the Dali Temple. Zhang He's expression changed dramatically, and he shouted, "Your Majesty, everything I said is true. It really was Duke Xing who ordered me. Even if you chop me to pieces, it won't change the facts." Li Er, annoyed, waved his hand. "That's enough. Take him away and interrogate him." Daizhou dragged Zhang He out of the Taiji hall. Li Er rubbed his temples and frowned. "This matter is truly a headache. Lu Zhengwei, I don't understand. Why would Zhang He insist it was you? I don't believe there's smoke without fire." Lu Zhengwei staggered and looked up to the sky with a long sigh. "Heavens. I've followed your Majesty through countless battles. Doesn't your Majesty know my character by now?" Qingxiu also observed Lu Zhengwei's expression, trying to find any clues, but he found no flaws. If Lu Zhengwei really arranged the assassins, then he was truly a master actor, textbook level. But clearly, Lu Zhengwei showed no flaws. Could he really be innocent? Qingxiu began to have doubts in his heart. At this point, Li Er also felt some pity. He looked at Lu Zhengwei, troubled. "It's not that I don't trust you, but all signs point to you. I don't want you to be the mastermind either. As Chang Yaojin said, who in the court doesn't suspect you?" Lu Zhengwei showed a bitter smile. Li Er waved his hand. "That's all for today. I'll send people to investigate the places Duke Xing passed. Once we have results, we'll reconvene." After the command, "Those with matters report, those without may leave," the officials began to disperse. Qingxiu tapped his cane and walked out of the Taiji hall. He had just reached the Chengtian gate when Lu Zhengwei caught up from behind. With a gloomy expression, he said, "Lord Qingxiu, my son's death will not go unanswered." Qingxiu didn't turn his head and replied coldly, "Before seeking revenge, find out what kind of person your son really was and what he did. I killed him because he deserved to die." Lu Zhengwei said sternly, "What my son did didn't deserve death. But you killed him. Just for that, we are sworn enemies." Qingxiu sneered, "Your son kidnapped my wives and concubines. When things went wrong, he tried to kill me to cover it up. Is that not deserving of death? Should I have just stuck out my neck and let him cut it? I understand your grief. But if it happened again, I'd still kill your son, maybe even stab him a few more times out of spite. If you want revenge, come at me. I'm ready." After saying that, Qingxiu walked away without turning back, and didn't even use his cane. He walked swiftly and confidently. This made Lu Zhengwei wonder, was this Marquis Qingxiu really blind? A blind man walking like the wind, almost like running? Who would believe that? When Qingxiu returned to his mansion, a carriage was parked in the courtyard. And he recognized it instantly. It was a carriage from Sanha village used for travel. Qingxiu immediately went to the gate and asked, "Old Qi, who's here?" Old Qi was a bachelor from Sanha village, almost 50, with a lame leg. He had asked Qingxiu for a livelihood and was arranged to be the gatekeeper here. Usually, Old Ma and Old Dao also took turns on duty here. Old Qi limped out nervously and, after glancing around cautiously, said, "Marquis, the three madams are here. They arrived just a short while ago, less than a tea's time. I already sent someone to notify you. Didn't you get the message?" Qingxiu tensed and shook his head. "No." Old Qi said, "Maybe they didn't run into your carriage. I'll deduct his pay when he returns." Qingxiu waved his hand and asked, "Tell me, what's the situation inside?" Old Qi said anxiously, "After the three madams went to the backyard, they haven't come out. Maybe they already found out about your secret, cough, cough." As he spoke, Old Qi showed an awkward expression. "Do they know about the assassination attempt on me 2 days ago? You told us not to mention it." No one in the mansion said anything. They probably don't know yet. "All right, get back to work." Qingxiu took a deep breath and headed resolutely to the backyard. The showdown was inevitable. It was time to face the storm. Backyard, bedroom. Qingxiu pushed open the door and entered, finding Su Xiaochun sitting on the bed with a pale, unhappy face. Yunyang and Zhangsun Pingting stood on either side of her body. Facing the three of them stood three others, Ashina Yu, Ling Yuqing, and Lu Yunin. Ashina Yu looked extremely calm, like a fellow victim. As for Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunin, as senior-junior sisters, their mental composure was clearly lacking. Worry and nervousness were well masked, but signs could still be seen in their expressions. Qingxiu's mouth twitched, and he forced a calm smile. "Oh, everyone's here? And didn't give me a heads up?" Su Xiaochun's voice trembled, her lips quivering. "If we'd given you a heads up, how could we have seen these two women inside your room together?" Qingxiu gave a dry laugh. "They are maids, cleaning up the study in the master's room, maybe?" "Cleaning up the study?" Su Xiaochun cocked her head, shaking 2 suspender stockings, one black, one white, and said sharply, "You mean cleaning up these?" "Oh yes, yes." Qingxiu nodded. "These were worn by Yunyang. I was just touching them to reminisce." Yunyang's face reddened, and she unexpectedly laughed, then suppressed it, her face faintly flushed and her shoulders trembling. Zhang Sun Pingting sneered, liar. These stockings aren't Yunyang's. We sleep together and saw her just yesterday. These suspender stockings are obviously not hers. Qingxiu cleared his throat and said confusedly, then maybe I misremembered. These could be Yuchan's that she left last night and forgot this morning. Zhang Sun Pingting burst into laughter and said, husband, are you trying to make me laugh to death? Yuchan just left here for Iwei residence, she didn't stay here last night at all. Su Xiaochun angrily tossed the stockings aside, stood up supporting her pregnant belly with one hand and her waist with the other. Stop playing dumb. They've already confessed. How long will you keep lying? Qingxiu kept pretending. What did they confess? We didn't confess. Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunin both said firmly at once. Upon hearing that, Qingxiu visibly relaxed. So Su Xiaochun was bluffing. Su Xiaochun's eyes reddened and she choked. They didn't confess just now, but soon they will. You three, how long have you two been with him? Ashina's beautiful eyes flickered. Occasionally she tilted her head slightly, appearing calm. Madam Qing, don't misunderstand me. I am a highborn Turkic princess, I cannot serve a married man. And please don't insult Ashina. I'm just a detained debtor. When my family comes to settle the debt, they'll take me away. Your husband wouldn't dare touch me. As she spoke, Ashina glanced at Qingxiu, a faint smile at her lips. To spare some Turkic warriors and ensure her father's safety, she had decided to serve Qingxiu well days ago. Now was her opportunity to shine. Her words indeed shocked Su Xiaochun, Yunyang, and Zhang Sun Pingting. Su Xiaochun examined Ashina, then frowned, but when you were at court you even asked His Majesty Qingxiu to take me as prince consort of the Turks. Now living under one roof, such a good opportunity, would you pass it up? Ashina feigned anger, don't insult me. I asked him to become prince consort of the Turks because of his ability to benefit the people, not for him personally. He's already shown he won't move to Turkic land. Why should I warm a cold butt? Su Xiaochun hesitated, pointing at the door. Your suspicions cleared. You can leave. Ashina turned gracefully and left without looking back. Ling Yuqing and Lu Yunin exchanged glances, seeing unease in each other's expressions. Now it's your turn to confess honestly. Su Xiaochun said blankly, shaking the two stockings again. Whose are they? Ling Yuqing had made up her mind, not to cause more trouble. She shook her head firmly. They're not mine. Su Xiaochun sneered. Not yours? Then why were they in my husband's room? Did they fall from the sky? Lu Yunin, however, blushed slightly, bit her lip, and stepped forward hesitantly. These stockings are mine. Su Xiaochun's expression froze. She knew Lu Yunin well and had some fondness, stemming from when Lu Yunin cared for her in Qinling. Lu Yunin looked at Ling Yuqing awkwardly. Ling Yuqing's expression turned incredulous. Had their eye contact been pointless? Weren't they supposed to pretend ignorance together? Lu Yunin whispered, Mrs. Su Sun, this is my senior sister. She came to visit me. She has no connection with your husband. Ling Yuqing's heart trembled. Those words made her feel a pang of disappointment and regret. She had not admitted the stockings were hers. If the madams decided to stay, she'd have to find another place. She'd become long distance, and nights alone in an empty room. True loneliness. Su Xiaochun then realized, bitterly shaking her head, I should have realized earlier. You live in Sanha village, running into each other every day. You're such an outstanding woman, if he doesn't fancy you, that's impossible. Hey. Qingxiu hurried to defend himself. My wife, you can't speak like that. Your husband is blind, so even if Yunyan is outstanding, how could I not tell? I'm not deceived by her looks, I'm charmed by her kind soul. Su Xiaochun sneered, so we've hurt you? Should we and Yunyang bow to you and apologize? That's not necessary. Qingxiu forced a smile. Su Xiaochun sat down, tears in her eyes. Your Highness is already a first-rank marquis, with high status now. You hardly stay in Sanha village anymore. You must be tired of country girls like me and Yunyang. You're starting to fancy new things. Qingxiu tapped his cane, face serious. My wife, you may doubt my character, you may doubt my lust, but you can never doubt my feelings for you both. He went over, embraced Su Xiaochun and said, we went through hardships together. You stood with me step by step to now. Even if I tire of others, I will never tire of you. My feelings are witnessed by heaven and earth. Su Xiaochun sobbed, you say that, but you go behind our backs finding so many women outside. It's false, all your sweet words are a lie. Though she said that, inside she had long forgiven him, but her pride made her hold on to bitterness. After a long comforting from Qingxiu and letting her down gently, the matter was finally laid to rest. To prevent Qingxiu from continuing to flirt with women outside, Su Xiaochun decided to temporarily stay at the Chang'an residence with Yunyang and Zhang Sun Pingting. At noon, at the dining table, Qingxiu kept putting food into Su Xiaochun's bowl. Su Xiaochun couldn't take it anymore and moved aside with her bowl. She said helplessly, "Husband, if you feel guilty toward me, there's no need to act like this. Actually, I'm not angry because of them." Su Xiaochun gave Lu Yunyan and Li Yuqing a meaningful glance. Them? Qingxiu felt a stir in his heart. Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan also shuddered a bit at the word them. The implication was obvious. The other party had already seen through the fact that both of them had given themselves to Qingxiu, just that no one had spoken about it openly until now. Qingxiu forced a laugh and said, "It's not guilt. It's just that your husband thinks you're going to give birth in 3 or 4 months. These vegetables are good for your body. You should eat more." Su Xiaochun put down her bowl and chopsticks and looked at him resentfully. "I'm angry because you sneak around with women and don't tell us. Do you think I, Yunyang, and Pingting are the kind of shrews who want to control everything you do?" Qingxiu immediately felt relieved. If that's what she meant, then he was no longer nervous. He would have to calmly talk things out later and try to settle all future conflicts in one day if possible. Qingxiu acknowledged, "It was my fault in this matter." Su Xiaochun continued, "We've said before, we don't oppose you taking concubines, as long as they are proper women from good families. If you like them, even having a few concubines is fine. As long as it's not too much, we can accept it. But it seems husband didn't understand what we meant. You keep sneaking around. When things come to light, you rack your brain for excuses. I feel tired on your behalf." Qingxiu looked embarrassed. "Exactly," Zhang Sun Pingting pouted. "Husband is a first-rank noble. You don't even have your 3 wives and 4 concubines yet. This is just the beginning. My brother isn't even married yet, and he already has 9 chambermaids. In the future, they'll all become his concubines. We're already satisfied that you haven't gone out to get 9 chambermaids." "What a guy," Qingxiu muttered inwardly. "My brother-in-law is truly something, a model for all of us." "So," Su Xiaochun said angrily, "now you know why I'm angry, right?" I know, Qingxiu nodded with a smile. "You're not angry because I found women, but because I did it behind your backs. I promise from now on, I'll look for women openly, is that okay?" Su Xiaochun glared at him furiously. "What kind of people do you think we are? We're not that easygoing. We don't support you openly looking for women." Qingxiu was stunned. "Isn't that what you meant?" Su Xiaochun rolled her eyes. "Wishful thinking. Of course you can find women, but before you do, you have to inform us. We need to know the woman's background first, and whether she's worthy of your noble status. If she's from a good family, then fine. If not, absolutely not. Do you understand now?" After saying that, Su Xiaochun blinked at Qingxiu with her big, sparkling eyes. I understand." Qingxiu nodded, while thinking, Yan Yushur should be from a good family, right? The strict upbringing of the Yan family suggests their family values must be solid. While Qingxiu was lost in thought, Su Xiaochun turned to Li Yuqing and said, "Your sister Lu's senior, and probably the oldest among us. We should all be calling you older sister. What should we call you?" After all this drama, they still didn't know Li Yuqing's full name. Li Yuqing smiled calmly. "My surname is Li, and my full name is Li Yuqing. If you don't mind, you can just call me Sister Qing." "All right then." Su Xiaochun smiled as she put down her bowl and chopsticks. "I'll have the maids prepare a proper room for you this afternoon. From now on, you'll live here. We'll be relying on Sister Qing to help keep an eye on our husband, so he doesn't go out and pick up other women." Qingxiu nearly choked on his food. Even as a blind man, he almost opened his eyes in shock. Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan both blushed. They looked at each other and saw deep embarrassment on each other's faces. Yunyang and Zhang Sun Pingting also looked at Su Xiaochun in surprise, eyes filled with confusion. Looking at Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan, Su Xiaochun smiled with pursed lips. "You don't have to hide it anymore. I could tell from the start that something happened between you two and husband. When Yunyang, Pingting, and I first arrived, you two looked nervous. If Sister Qing was just here to visit Sister Lu, you wouldn't act like that. You should have been calm. If nothing shady had happened between you and husband, why would you be nervous? Also, when Sister Lu admitted it, your shocked face made it obvious even to a fool." Zhang Sun Pingting got angry. "Sister, are you calling Yunyang and me fools?" Su Xiaochun rolled her eyes. "It was so obvious. If you two didn't notice, what else would you call it but foolish?" Qingxiu rubbed Su Xiaochun's little head in surprise. "Wow, my wife's learned to deduce things. You're like a detective. I'll have to be extra careful around you from now on." "Enough." Su Xiaochun slapped his hand away angrily. "It's all your fault I turned out like this. Qingxiu chuckled awkwardly. Come on, let's eat. Now that everything is out in the open, let's not argue anymore. Suddenly, Su Xiaochun said, actually, this might be for the best. You took in Sister Qing and Sister Lu, which saves us a lot of trouble. How so? Qingxiu asked, confused. Su Xiaochun covered her mouth and laughed. Think about it. When I was kidnapped to Qinling, if you had killed Sister Lu and Miss Xiaoro, Sister Qing, as their senior, would definitely have plotted revenge. She might have even harmed me and Yunyang. If you killed Sister Qing and Miss Shuixian next, the people behind them would seek revenge too. When would it ever end? We'd have to live in fear every day, always watching out for enemies. But now that you've taken them in, no one's going to seek revenge. Life will be much more peaceful, isn't that great? Don't you all agree? Even Qingxiu hadn't expected Su Xiaochun to consider all that. She even thought about the endless cycle of vengeance. Exactly. Qingxiu nodded shamelessly and said, wife, actually all the things you said, your husband had already thought of them long ago and already acted on them. It's just that I was afraid I couldn't explain it clearly to you, so I didn't tell you. Everyone at the table gave him a disdainful look. Lu Yunyan showed a sincere smile, looking charming and alluring. Li Yuqing's eyes turned red. She turned away and quietly wiped the corners of her eyes. Su Xiaochun quickly grabbed her hand with concern and asked, Sister Qing, what's wrong? Why did you suddenly start crying? Did we touch on something painful just now? Li Yuqing wiped her tears and smiled, it's nothing. I was just suddenly very happy. My junior sister and I were adopted by our master when we were very young. Since childhood, we were taught that our mission was to rule the Nanjiao 100 tribes and to seek the path of immortality. We always treated those two goals as our lifelong pursuits and beliefs. We thought that was the only meaning of life. But after meeting him, I finally understood what the meaning of life is, what true happiness is. Only now do I truly realize that the life I have now is what I've always been searching for. I got so happy that I cried. Sorry to make you laugh. Su Xiaochun asked, then, why not tell us about your and Sister Lu's past? All right. Li Yuqing didn't hide anything and began telling the story of her and Lu Yunyan's earlier lives. She talked about being adopted at a young age, her difficult background, how she suffered and endured to train in martial arts. The story moved Su Xiaochun, Yunyang, and Zhang Sun Pingting to tears, full of sympathy. Although Qingxiu wasn't particularly interested, he still listened patiently. After hearing it, he realized that the feelings among the women sitting together had deepened quite a bit. From strangers, they suddenly became close like real sisters. Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan naturally became part of this big family. After the meal, Su Xiaochun smiled and said, Sister Qing is already 33, and Sister Lu is over 30 as well. Even though you've just recently experienced relationships, you can be considered mature women now. While you're still charming and not too old, why not quickly give our husband a child or two? That way, your lives would feel more complete, don't you think? This made Lu Yunyan blush deeply. Li Yuqing was better, just her pretty face slightly red, gazing at Qingxiu with bright eyes full of expectation. She even smiled with anticipation, that's not up to us. Without our husband, how can Yunyan and I have children? Giggle. Su Xiaochun laughed playfully, that's easy. You just keep sleeping with him every night and try to get pregnant soon. In such a big family with so many wives and concubines, I'm the only one pregnant. Once the baby is born, it'll be so lonely. Husband, am I right? Yes, yes, yes. Qingxiu nodded repeatedly. In fact, he didn't feel much about it, because for the past few days, Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan had been spending every night with him. But he always avoided them. Every time, he left their faces completely soaked. These words made Yunyang unhappy. She touched her flat belly and said disappointedly, there's still no movement in my belly. If all of you get pregnant, what about me? Zhang Sun Pingting said in surprise, Sister Yunyang, don't tell me, you're infertile? Su Xiaochun's expression changed slightly. She gently tapped Zhang Sun Pingting, and Pingting quickly covered her mouth, her eyes darting around nervously. Yunyang shuddered, and her face suddenly turned pale. Infertile refers to a woman who can't have children. Qingxiu's face darkened, and he said, Pingting, don't scare Yunyang. She's not infertile. She's a perfectly healthy woman. Yunyang had already started crying, lowering her head as tears fell. Qingxiu coughed and explained, this isn't Yunyang's fault, it's mine. Let me give you all a little lesson in this area. For the next half hour, Qingxiu gave them a full lecture on reproductive knowledge. Half an hour later, Su Xiaochun sat dumbfounded, so that's how it works. Yunyang's eyes were full of grievance, and she silently made up her mind, next time, she would never allow her face to be soaked again. Except for Zhang Sun Pingting and the already pregnant Su Xiaochun, The expressions in the eyes of Yunyang, Li Yuqing, and Lu Yunyan were all very suggestive. Qingxiu felt uncertain. Were they really planning a three-pronged attack? If that were the case, then the fun might be significantly reduced going forward. Zhang Sun Pingting wasn't in a rush because Qingxiu had already told her that her body wasn't suitable for pregnancy at the moment. At least she'd have to wait until she turned 18 in 2 or 3 years, ahem. Su Xiaochun came back to her senses and smiled with narrowed eyes. Since that's the case, then Yunyang, tonight it's your turn. There was no saving the conversation now, but Qingxiu was still very happy. That night, Yunyang had originally planned to go to bed early after taking a bath, thinking she'd wait for Qingxiu to be in a better mood tomorrow and come to her himself. With 2 newly joined sisters beside her, Yunyang was resistant at heart. But since Su Xiaochun was pregnant, she couldn't object too strongly. So, she was dragged away by force to play mahjong. Yunyang was shy and reserved at first, but eventually, she couldn't withstand Qingxiu's relentless attacks, and by the end, she had completely forgotten why she was even there. So in the end, Yunyang, Li Yuqing, and Lu Yunyan all had their faces soaked. The next morning, just as dawn was breaking, Qingxiu, surrounded by the 3 soft bodies, was woken up by knocking on the door. It was Zhang Sun Pingting. "Husband, wake up, wake up. Someone from the palace is here." Qingxiu got up, put on a robe, and opened the door. Zhang Sun Pingting stood outside sleepily in a thin outer garment, followed by a maid. "What is it? What happened?" Qingxiu asked with a frown. Zhang Sun Pingting yawned and said sweetly, "Husband, a messenger from the palace came, asking you to attend the morning court." Qingxiu said unhappily, "Just because they say I should attend, I have to go? Can't people sleep anymore?" Zhang Sun Pingting giggled, "Husband, it's already daylight. Hurry up and go. You can come back and sleep more after court." "Pingting, are you even fully awake?" Zhang Sun Pingting yawned again, rubbing her eyes, "Not yet. I was planning to go back and sleep more. Hurry up and get up, husband." With that, she turned and headed back to her room. But Qingxiu suddenly grabbed her from behind. "Sleep? You woke me up and now you want to sleep? Hand it over." Poor Zhang Sun Pingting, she hadn't even fully woken up and was already forced into action by Qingxiu. In any case, by the time Qingxiu left, it was already an hour later. At the palace, the second prince and the civil and military officials were all about ready to curse out loud from waiting too long. Hall of Supreme Harmony. Li Er had a dark expression the whole time, while several censors from the censorate wore looks of schadenfreude on their faces. One of them stepped out holding the court tablet and said, "Your Majesty, the residence of the Duke of Zhen is in Qinglongfang, which is less than half an hour from the imperial city. The messenger Your Majesty dispatched has been gone for over an hour, and yet the Duke of Zhen still hasn't arrived for court. Could it be that he noticed something was wrong and fled Chang'an with his family?" Li Er fixed the censor with a cold stare and said in a low voice, "From what I know of Duke Qing, he's not someone who is cowardly or avoids trouble. If he's late, it's likely because he has some urgent matter at home." The censor continued, "That makes it even worse. What matter could be more important than the morning court? Although the Duke of Zhen is not cowardly, if what the assassin Zhang He said is true, then it's possible the Duke fled out of guilt. I urge Your Majesty to prepare early." Inside the hall, the assassin Zhang He lay sprawled on the ground, his skin split and flesh torn, clearly having suffered intense torture. Chang Sun Wuji also looked displeased. He stepped forward to speak up. "The claim that the Duke of Zhen hired assassins to kill himself is too ridiculous. I believe Zhang He is deliberately confusing truth and lies to protect the mastermind behind the scenes." Chang Yaojin also cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, what the Right Deputy Prime Minister said is correct. I agree. I also agree." Unknowingly, Qingxiu's image as a loyal and upright man had already been established in the hearts of many old loyal ministers. Lu Yanhui raised his eyelids, glanced around the room, but didn't speak, although a trace of schadenfreude was also visible on his face. At that moment, a voice like a drake's quack came from outside, "The Duke of Zhen seeks audience." The civil and military officials all perked up. Li Er clearly let out a breath of relief but still said with a cold face, "Summon the Duke of Zhen." Soon after, Qingxiu limped into the Hall of Supreme Harmony, tapping his blind cane as he walked. Li Er had originally wanted to scold him a bit, but suddenly stopped and instead asked, "What happened to your leg?" Qingxiu cupped his hands and said, "It's nothing serious. I dreamed I was riding a horse last night and accidentally fell. I only realized my leg was hurt when I got up. Before coming, I saw a doctor. It's not serious, just needs a few days of rest." Li Er twitched at the corner of his mouth. Many generals did too. Li Er silently cursed. Couldn't he come up with a more believable excuse? Did he have to embarrass everyone like this? The censors all exchanged wide-eyed glances. Li Er said with a dark face, Duke Qing, you're really careless. Getting hurt from riding a horse in a dream? That must have been some horse. Indeed, who rides 3 horses till midnight? Who rides 4 more horses early in the morning for a full hour? Qingxiu let out a dry laugh and got straight to the point. Your Majesty summoned me early. Has there been progress with the assassination case? Yes, there has, Li Er said with a strange expression. But what we've discovered is quite unbelievable to us all. Oh? Qingxiu looked interested. Then I'd like to hear the details. Lu Yanhui smiled insincerely and said, Duke Qing, you really set up a great play for yourself. You almost fooled His Majesty and the entire court. Hiring someone to assassinate yourself, how did you come up with that? Qingxiu looked confused. Pointing to himself, he asked, I hired someone to assassinate me? Duke Xing, I'm not crazy. Are you joking? At that moment, the half-dead Zhang He lying on the floor reached toward him with a pleading look. Duke Qing, save me. I can't endure their torture anymore. The truth is out. Then, his hand dropped weakly, and he collapsed again. Qingxiu's face darkened. He flipped Zhang He over with his foot, bent down, and asked, What do you mean by that? Zhang He looked guilty and said, Duke Qing, I've already confessed everything. I'm sorry, I've disappointed you. Qingxiu looked up blankly at Li Er. Your Majesty, what is this about? I don't understand at all. Lu Yanhui coldly snorted, Humph, Duke Qing is really good at playing dumb. What a unique self-harming strategy, almost fooled His Majesty, and nearly made me bear the crime of assassinating a duke. You really have skills. Li Er impatiently said, Lu Yanhui, if the truth isn't clear yet, shut up. Lu Yanhui obediently fell silent. Li Er looked at Qingxiu with a strange expression and said, Duke Qing, Zhang He said it was you who gave him 10,000 strings of cash to hire people to assassinate you. Qingxiu couldn't help but laugh. Your Majesty, seriously? I hired someone to assassinate myself? And you believe that? Li Er continued, Zhang He said you killed Duke Xing's son and were afraid of revenge, so you paid him to kill you, planning to frame Duke Xing and let Lu Yanhui be executed, thus removing a threat once and for all. And from the address Zhang He gave, we found 1,000 taels of gold. The boxes used to hold the gold were made by carpenter Zhang from your village of Sanhe. Now we have both material and witness evidence. Do you have anything to say? Qingxiu was completely dumbfounded. He looked at Zhang He like he'd seen a ghost. What kind of nonsense was this? Your Majesty, one censor said, Duke Qing has toyed with your Majesty and the court. According to law, he should be executed immediately. Yes, I agree. I agree as well. These censors from prestigious families finally found their chance and had no intention of letting it go easily. So one by one, they began to kick him while he was down. Qingxiu pointed to his head, looked around with sarcasm, and said, A brain is a good thing. Too bad you don't have one. The censors all looked furious. Qingxiu gave them no chance to speak, continuing with a sneer, If I really hired people to kill myself, why would I kill all the assassins and leave only one alive? Zhang He, I killed all your men. By logic, you should hate me and expose me from the beginning. Why wait until now? Zhang He gave a bitter smile and said, Duke Qing, weren't you the one who told me to find completely unrelated helpers to assassinate you? You also said that for the act to be convincing, some people had to die, otherwise these fat-bellied court officials wouldn't believe it. And since they all died, I could keep the gold for myself. Wasn't that the path you showed me? Qingxiu coldly replied, You're about to die. What's the point of that 1,000 taels of gold? This story makes no sense. I advise you not to waste your energy. If you're thinking of doing one last thing for your master before death, you'd better stop before I start questioning you seriously. What a joke. Qingxiu almost wanted to laugh, such a flawed accusation, and yet someone believed it? Had they all been kicked in the head by a donkey? But some things he could only think about in his heart, because Li Er was the very first person whose head had been kicked by a donkey. Yes. Li Er clapped and laughed, Duke Qing is right. He said all that gold belonged to you. Now your life is in danger, what's the point of that gold? Are you planning to bribe the underworld's ghosts with it? Zhang He sighed, I know you don't believe me. Even if I speak with the most convincing words, no one will believe what I say. I wanted to leave that 1,000 taels of gold for my wife and children. If not for the unbearable torture from the Court of Judicial Review, I would never have confessed. Li Er sneered, You attempted to assassinate a duke, that's a crime punishable by the extermination of 9 generations. Your wife and children wouldn't live to spend the gold anyway. Such a simple truth, hard to believe you don't understand it. Zhang He chuckled, Then may I ask, has your Majesty found out who my wife and children are? This question stumped Li Er instantly. To be honest, he had ordered a thorough investigation. But aside from confirming the name Zhang He, they hadn't found anything useful. He looked helplessly at Qingxiu with an expression that said, I have no clue either. Zhang He looked at Qingxiu and gave a bitter smile. Duke Qing, now that this has been exposed, I don't expect my family to live well anymore. You're a duke with great merits, His Majesty definitely won't kill you. I only ask that after I die, you help take care of my body. It wouldn't be a waste of my cooperation in this farce. Zhang He thanks you. Qingxiu sneered without replying. Censor Wang Chunan jumped out and said, Your Majesty, I believe this case should be closed now. The evidence proves that Duke Qing, fearing retaliation for killing the Duke of Xing's son, devised this scheme to frame the Duke of Xing. Such narrow-minded behavior from the Duke of Zhen is despicable, truly outrageous. I request Your Majesty to punish the Duke of Zhen according to the law to set an example. Qingxiu said coldly, Censor Wang, how come you weren't this enthusiastic when Zhang He was first confessing yesterday? Wang Chunan said sternly, Yesterday, I already sensed that the Duke of Xing was being framed. I am a righteous official. I would never slander a good man or shield a bad one. Qingxiu asked in a deep voice, Then, Censor Wang, are you saying I'm the mastermind? If not you, then who else? Wang Chunan sneered. Heh. Qingxiu chuckled, Very well, Censor Wang. I truly look forward to seeing the Wang clan of Taiyuan executed, with you beheaded in public. I believe everyone will witness that soon. Wang Chuanan's face changed, and so did the faces of several other Wang clan censors. Li Er raised an eyebrow, a slight smile on his lips. At this point, he knew Qingxiu had a plan. Changsun Wuji also finally relaxed. Aside from Li Er, the one who cared most about him was his father-in-law Changsun Wuji, followed by Cheng Yaojin and the others. Otherwise, Cheng Yaojin wouldn't have stood up for him multiple times. Death is near and you still boast shamelessly, Wang Chunan snorted and stepped back into the censorate's ranks. Then let's see whose death is near, Qingxiu said, nodding. He cupped his hands to Li Er, Your Majesty, the assassination case involving me has been turned into a mess by Zhang He. For now, it's impossible to determine who the mastermind truly is. I propose handing Zhang He over to me. Give me 7 days. After that, I'll bring him to the Hall of Supreme Harmony, and he will confess everything. Zhang He's face changed. Hand me over to you? He'd rather die now. A sense of unease began to rise in Zhang He's heart. Oh? Li Er asked with interest, What plan does Duke Qing have? Qingxiu replied mysteriously, A man of the mountains has his own methods. The truth will be revealed in 7 days. I ask everyone to wait and see. The court began to murmur. He's stalling for time. Your Majesty, Duke Qing is clearly stalling, he wants to escape punishment. Qingxiu ignored Wang Chunan and said to Li Er, If Your Majesty fears I might run away, you can assign someone to monitor me 24 hours a day. If I show any sign of escape, I can be arrested immediately. Fine, Li Er nodded, I'll give Duke Qing 7 days. I'll also assign people to watch your every move. Wang Chunan quickly said, Your Majesty, you mustn't. He's clearly delaying for time. Qingxiu sneered, Censor Wang, if you want me punished so badly, then waiting 7 days won't hurt. If I can't overturn this case by then, you'll see my head roll. Are you afraid I actually might succeed? You? Overturn the case? Wang Chunan said firmly, Impossible. Then we'll wait and see. Li Er waved, Enough. This matter ends here. I've made my decision, Duke Qing has 7 days. Court dismissed. With that, Li Er walked away without looking back. The court officials began to disperse. Qingxiu picked up Zhang He and walked out of the hall. Changsun Wuji rushed over and said urgently, Son-in-law, this matter can't be taken lightly. One misstep could be irreversible. Even if His Majesty believes you're innocent, with both witness and physical evidence, it'll be hard to escape punishment. Qingxiu smiled confidently, Father-in-law, don't worry. The truth will be revealed in 7 days. Then he quickened his pace and brought Zhang He onto the carriage. Zhang He nervously asked, Where are you taking me? Qingxiu looked amused, Zhang He, no, that's not your real name. Let's just call you Zhang He for now. Zhang He's expression didn't change, but his pupils contracted. Qingxiu continued, Zhang He, I really don't understand, what did that bastard from the Wang family offer you to make you give up your life, and still try to disgust me before dying? Zhang He's mouth twitched. He replied stiffly, What Wang family? I don't understand what you're talking about. Qingxiu laughed, people who answer like that at this stage are always just forcing a lie. I'll make you willingly confess every detail before the entire court. Zhang He felt a sudden panic. He couldn't figure out where Qingxiu's confidence came from. When Qingxiu returned to the residence, he ordered Zhang He locked up and arranged for him to be watched around the clock. Then he went to his room, drew something on paper, and handed the drawing to Wei Laojiu, instructing him, Old Jiu, make several copies of this and send it out. Mobilize everyone who can move. Whoever finds this thing on the drawing will be heavily rewarded. The more, the better. Although Wei Laojiu didn't know what the drawing depicted, he could tell from Qingxiu's serious expression that it was important. He immediately gathered a few draftsmen and had the item on the paper printed out. Then he distributed them without delay to all idle people in Sanha village, mobilizing them to search for the strange plant shown on the drawing. Although Li Er said in front of all civil and military officials that he would assign someone to monitor Qingxiu's every move, he didn't actually do it. On one hand, he trusted Qingxiu and believed that he wasn't someone who played dirty tricks. On the other hand, Li Er also knew that if he followed along with the suspicion, it could easily damage the royal family's relationship with Qingxiu. Li Er understood this well and just told Princess Xiangqing to interact more with Qingxiu over the next few days, as a way to silence public gossip. When some officials tried to oppose this on the grounds that it would damage the reputation of the imperial princess, Li Er gave it a noble-sounding reason: to let Princess Xiangqing get to know the Duke of Jin better. If he turned out to have moral flaws, the marriage edict could still be withdrawn. Two people were quite happy about this: Xiao Yu, who had tried many times to propose marriage for his son and was rejected, and his eldest son, Xiao Rui. "My son," Xiao Yu stroked his beard and sighed, "I'm getting old. Lately, His Majesty has been hinting that I should retire. I estimate that soon, I'll be handing over my position as Prime Minister to Changsun Wuji. I just want to use my remaining time in office to secure your hereditary title. Marrying a princess is the safest path. That way, even if you don't achieve much in your official career, with a noble princess by your side, when I'm gone, inheriting the title will go smoothly. His Majesty is someone who values old ties." Next to Xiao Yu was a man just over 30 years old with a handsome face. His name was Xiao Rui, Xiao Yu's eldest son. He was also the historical husband of Princess Xiangqing during the Zhenguan era. Though he didn't achieve much, he inherited Xiao Yu's title of duke. Xiao Rui frowned and asked, "Father, but His Majesty has already issued an edict declaring the princess is to marry the Duke of Zhen. Surely he won't go back on that decision." Xiao Yu chuckled and said, "Son, you don't know. A few days ago, Blind Qing was attacked. Guess what?" "What?" Xiao Rui asked, confused. Xiao Yu recounted everything that had happened at court recently. Xiao Rui couldn't believe it: a dignified duke actually hired someone to assassinate himself just to frame another duke? That's just too vicious. Xiao Yu shook his head, "Not necessarily. I don't believe he could do such a thing. It's probably the mastermind trying to muddy the waters and trap him." Xiao Rui asked, "Then what does this have to do with his marriage to Princess Xiangqing?" Xiao Yu smiled. "I heard that the captured assassin, after being caught on the day of the attack, was tortured by Duke Qing and confessed that the mastermind was Duke Xing, Lu Zhengwei. But yesterday, after being interrogated again by the Court of Judicial Review, the assassin suddenly changed his story this morning, saying it was Blind Qing who orchestrated everything. Think about it. An assassin who wasn't afraid of torture, even willing to die while insisting Duke Qing wasn't the mastermind. How could he suddenly change his confession? This matter is 90% unlikely to be reversed." Xiao Rui's eyes lit up. "Father, are you saying we can work with this angle, make Blind Qing take the blame for framing a duke, and thus get His Majesty to withdraw the marriage edict?" Xiao Yu nodded with a smile. "Exactly. His Majesty didn't assign anyone to monitor him. Instead, he asked the princess to spend more time with him. On the surface, it's for her to understand his character, but in truth, His Majesty is already beginning to suspect him." Xiao Rui frowned. "But father, this is a serious matter. We must not act rashly. If we're exposed, our whole family could be implicated." Xiao Yu smiled. "As long as we don't get directly involved, even if the case flips, we won't be affected." Xiao Rui thought for a while and nodded. "Father, I'll do as you say. What should we do?" Xiao Yu narrowed his eyes and after a while said, "Lu Zhengwei lost his son and hates Blind Qing to the bone. Doesn't Lu Zhengwei still have two younger sons? His second son, Lu Xuanji, is about 13 or 14 now. I've heard that he and his older brother were very close. It's been almost 2 months since his brother was killed, and Lu Xuanji still hasn't come out of the grief. Also, Lu Xuanji is young and emotionally immature. He won't think things through carefully. Ruier, you can start from this angle." Xiao Rui's eyes lit up and he laughed. "Father, I have a good idea." "Oh? Let's hear it," Xiao Yu said with interest. Xiao Rui whispered something in Xiao Yu's ear. Xiao Yu's eyes also lit up, and he patted his son's shoulder in praise. "Worthy of being my brilliant son. To come up with such a perfect plan. Father, I'll hint it to Lu Xuanji today." "Good." Xiao Yu nodded. "Remember, don't show your face unless absolutely necessary." "Don't worry, father. I'll find a commoner to handle it." After some instructions, Xiao Rui left the house. That evening, at the Duke of Zhen's residence, Wei Laojiu returned driving a cart full of strange flowers and plants. As soon as he entered the courtyard, the bright red flowers on the cart caught the attention of Su Xiaochun and the others. This flower is so pretty. I've never seen such a vibrant bloom in my life. Laojiu, what's it called? Su Xiaochun asked curiously. Wei Laojiu shook his head. Madam, I don't know. The Lord just asked me to find it. He said it's very important. Zhang Sun Pingting chattered and pulled Li Yuqing over to ask, Aunt Qing, you're knowledgeable. Have you seen this flower before? Since that morning, after being dealt with together by Qingxiu, and at Qingxiu's insistence that Zhang Sun Pingting call Li Yuqing Aunt Qing, she'd gotten used to it. Li Yuqing was helpless against the mischievous Pingting, but still stepped closer to examine the flower carefully. Her expression changed. Opium poppy? This is a poppy flower. Poppy flower? I've never heard of that name before. The others all looked confused. At that moment, Qingxiu also entered from outside and asked, Aunt Qing, you recognize this? Li Yuqing blushed slightly and playfully complained, Husband, how many times have I told you not to call me Aunt Qing? I'm still young. Hee, Qingxiu laughed, then I'll call you the young Aunt Qing from now on. Li Yuqing stamped her foot in frustration, her chest heaving. She pulled Su Xiaochun aside and said, This flower's pollen is harmful to the body, especially for pregnant women. You should stay away from it, Xiaochun. Su Xiaochun's face turned fearful when she heard this. She hugged her big belly and quickly moved far away. Qing Aunt, do you recognize this thing? Qingxiu asked again. Li Yuqing nodded seriously and said, Yes. In our village, we grow a lot of it. Our Wuzhu sect has a special method to extract a powder from the flower pods to make longevity paste. Qingxiu's mouth twitched, showing a look of disbelief, and he said with shock, My God. Qing Aunt, turns out you're a drug lord. Li Yuqing frowned and asked in confusion, What's a drug lord? Nothing, Qingxiu muttered. Then he asked curiously, What do you use the longevity paste for? Don't tell me you and Yunyan are already addicted? Qingxiu looked nervous. Once someone gets hooked on that stuff, it's hard to quit. The withdrawal is as painful as being skinned alive. Lu Yunyan said with disgust, We don't take that stuff. Once you're addicted, you'll be completely under someone else's control. Addicts will even kill their own parents, wives, and children without hesitation. Phew, that terrifying? Zhang Sun Pingting gasped and stepped back 2 steps, keeping far away from the cart. Yunyang also stepped back, but she held on to Su Xiaochun, as if to show she wasn't scared but just protecting her. Li Yuqing said awkwardly, Of course we don't take it ourselves. Longevity paste is something we Wuzhu sect use to control the native tribal kings of Nanzhao. Qingxiu breathed a sigh of relief and nodded. As long as you don't touch it, that's fine. Husband also knows this stuff is addictive? Li Yuqing asked curiously. Qingxiu nodded. Of course I know. I want to use it to make some longevity paste, to interrogate a prisoner. Prisoner? From a distance, Su Xiaochun pointed to a room in the corner and asked curiously, Is it the man you brought back this morning? Husband, what crime did this man commit? Isn't there the court of judicial review? Why would His Majesty let you interrogate him? Qingxiu never mentioned his assassination attempt, nor did he want to, saying it would only make them worry. So he casually brushed it off, that man's very tight-lipped. He's been tortured by the court for days and still didn't talk. So His Majesty handed him to me. Li Yuqing smiled and said, Using longevity paste is a good method. At most 5 or 6 days, once he's addicted, forget interrogation, he'll spill everything on his own. He'll even volunteer to dig up his ancestors' graves if needed. Ugh, so scary. Aside from Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan, the other 3 wives all looked frightened. Li Yuqing took out a small square wooden box and smiled, Husband doesn't need to make it himself. I have some longevity paste with me, enough for 1 person for a month. Qingxiu quickly snatched it, his face displeased. Why are you carrying this stuff? And if you had it, why didn't you say earlier? I spent all day looking for it. Li Yuqing giggled, Husband never asked. Qingxiu raised his hand and slapped Li Yuqing's plump butt, what a beautiful ripple. Li Yuqing's face turned red, her body trembled, and she took 2 steps back, secretly glancing around. Seeing her junior sister and the 3 other wives giving her ambiguous looks made her even more shy, though she pretended nothing had happened. Her gaze toward Qingxiu was full of flirtation. From just 1 slap, she already felt like getting her face wet again. Li Yuqing, like a ripe peach, oozed seductive charm in every movement, irresistible to any man. That 1 slap almost made Qingxiu want to carry her straight to bed. But thankfully, Qingxiu had strong self-control and changed the topic, Old Jiu, where did you get this stuff? Wei Laojiu smiled, a merchant in Jialing who's done business in Lingnan a few times. His household grows a lot of it. Apparently, his concubine liked the flower, brought it back from Lingnan, and gifted it to his official wife. Qingxiu's eyes lit up and he asked, that merchant's wife, does she have any children? Wei Laojiu was surprised. How did you know that, my lord? That's amazing. Qingxiu curled his lip and said, the flower's pollen is harmful to the body. If the merchant planted so much of it at home, of course his wife couldn't bear children. That concubine isn't an ordinary woman. Su Xiaochun seemed to catch the meaning in Qingxiu's words. She shivered and distanced herself from Yunyang and Zhangsun Pingting, even asking them not to get near her. After that, Qingxiu instructed Wei Laojiu to collect all the flower pods and asked Li Yuqing to explain how to make longevity paste. Then he handed the paste to Yunyang and said, Yunyang, every time the cook delivers food to the prisoner, mix in a little. Yunyang carefully tucked away the longevity paste. Qingxiu's confidence came from this. Before the addiction kicks in, everything seems normal. But once it starts, the consequences are unimaginable. In the next few days, Qingxiu waited for Zhang He to slowly become dependent on the longevity paste. Zhang He was a bit confused. Wasn't he supposed to be interrogated? Why was no one torturing him? He'd gone through rigorous training. No matter how painful the torture, he could bear it. He would never reveal the mastermind. But this blind man didn't torture him at all. Instead, he was given good food and drink every day, without any movement. This made Zhang He suspicious. Was he trying to seduce me? Unable to figure it out, he stopped thinking about it. Actually, he didn't want to die. Living one more day was better than dying. As long as he wasn't tortured, he was fine with it. 5 days passed. Zhang He began to feel itchy all over every morning. The feeling would disappear after eating breakfast. At noon and evening, his bones would itch slightly, but it wasn't too bad. Until the 6th morning, Zhang He felt horrible all over, constantly twisting and rubbing his body against things to relieve the itch. But this itch seemed to come from deep in his bones. No matter how hard he struggled, it was useless. Where's breakfast? Why hasn't it come yet? Zhang He got anxious and couldn't help but shout, breakfast? Damn it, where's my breakfast? Hurry up, I can't take it. In his mind, he thought eating breakfast would ease the discomfort. But no one answered his yelling. Zhang He rolled on the ground in pain, shouting from his throat, food. Give me breakfast. Ah, breakfast. A moment later, the door opened. Qingxiu walked in with a bowl of rice. Zhang He didn't stop twisting. He shouted, Why you? Why are you bringing food? Qingxiu dumped the rice and vegetables into a metal basin and pushed it over with his foot, like feeding a dog. Zhang He seemed used to this and quickly crawled over, burying his face into the bowl. Soon, the food was completely devoured. He thought eating would help. But instead, he found the feeling only got worse. Looking at Zhang He rolling on the ground, moaning in pain, Qingxiu asked with a half-smile, Hurts, doesn't it? Feels unbearable, like thousands of ants gnawing at your bones? Zhang He suddenly stopped struggling. He looked at Qingxiu in disbelief and asked, You, how do you know that? Because I'm the one who made you like this. Zhang He's face changed drastically. The food was poisoned? You're only realizing that now? Bit too late. The antidote. Give me the antidote. Zhang He shouted while writhing in pain, eyes bloodshot. Qingxiu stood up and said, I'll have someone guard this place. When you're ready to talk, I'll give you the antidote. After speaking, Qingxiu walked away without looking back. Behind him, the small dark room echoed with Zhang He's furious and unwilling curses and roars. Not even a stick of incense had burned when the servant guarding the door found Qingxiu and reported respectfully, My lord, that man said he wants to see you. If you give him the antidote, he'll confess everything. Qingxiu put down his teacup, surprised. He broke that quickly? Looks like I overestimated his willpower. Soon, Qingxiu entered the small dark room in the backyard. At this point, Zhang He had no trace of his earlier defiance. He lay trembling on the ground like a dying dog, his face covered in tears and snot, even having wet himself. Antidote. Antidote, please give me the antidote. I'll talk, I'll tell you everything, just give me the antidote. When Zhang He saw Qingxiu, his once dull eyes lit up like he'd found a lifeline. Qingxiu sat across from him, smirking, Tell me everything you know, and I'll give you the antidote. Give me the antidote first. Please. You're in no position to bargain. Either talk or suffer. Seeing Qingxiu about to leave, Zhang He shouted, I'll talk, don't go, it was Wang Jinghuai who told me to do it. So it really was the Wang clan of Taiyuan. Qingxiu showed a, just as I expected, expression. He had guessed it was the Wang clan, but didn't think it was Wang Jinghuai specifically. Tell me in detail. While enduring the unbearable withdrawal, Zhang He quickly said, I'm one of the death soldiers trained by Wang Buqing of the Taiyuan Wang family. After Wang Buqing died on the way back to Taiyuan, Wang Jinghuai believed it had something to do with you. So he had me contact active death soldiers to act against you. All the framing plans inside and out were orchestrated by Wang Jinghuai. I've told you everything. Now give me the antidote. Qingxiu took out Li Yuqing's little wooden box and scooped a bit of longevity paste with a small silver spoon into a food bowl. Zhang He didn't hesitate. He crawled over and licked it clean. Within a few breaths, his trembling stopped. Lying on the ground, he gasped for air, feeling a heavenly relief. Qingxiu put away the longevity paste and said, "Tomorrow morning, I'll bring you to court. Repeat everything you said today, and I'll grant you a swift death." Zhang He's face stiffened. He glanced at Qingxiu, then unexpectedly showed a mocking smile. "What did I confess? I don't remember saying anything." Qingxiu's face turned cold, but a smile soon returned. "I hope you're just as tough tomorrow morning." Zhang He sneered, "You already gave me the drug, and now you want me to testify? Fine, I'll stop eating or drinking starting now. Tomorrow, I'll stick to the story that you set me up. Even if I die, I won't change my statement again." "Fine. As you wish. You won't be getting lunch or dinner today." Qingxiu smiled and walked out. He had thought Zhang He would be smart enough to see the situation, but turns out, he was just a short-sighted brute. As expected, Zhang He didn't get lunch or dinner. But that night, the unbearable itching came again, and the same withdrawal episode played out. This time, after giving him a bit of longevity paste, Qingxiu coldly asked, "So, do you still think the drug is out of your system?" Zhang He's face turned ashen. Even without Qingxiu saying it, he had realized the poison was chronic. The so-called antidote was the drug itself. That night, Qingxiu didn't go anywhere. He stayed with Su Xiaochun all night. Concubines were beautiful, yes, but he couldn't neglect his first wife just because of them. The next morning, the palace sent a messenger to summon Qingxiu to court. Entering the Hall of Supreme Harmony, Qingxiu noticed many strange looks, some filled with disbelief, others watching like it was a good show, especially from several censors of the 5 surnames 7 clans, particularly Wang Qunan from the Wang family of Taiyuan. Inside the hall, 3 ragged old men knelt on the floor. "Your humble subject greets your majesty." After saluting Li Er, Qingxiu stood at the center of the hall. Li Er expressionlessly asked, "Duke Qing, do you recognize these 3 old farmers?" Qingxiu shook his head, "I do not." "Why does your majesty ask?" Li Er twitched at the corner of his mouth and said helplessly, "You may not know them, but they know you." "Oh?" Qingxiu became interested. He smiled, "Are they here to accuse me or to provide important leads?" Li Er asked coldly, "You 3, look closely. Is this the man?" One old farmer looked at Qingxiu and firmly said, "Your majesty, it's him. It's definitely him." "Yes, it's him. I wouldn't mistake it." "I wouldn't either." Qingxiu asked, confused, "Your majesty, what does this mean?" Li Er said with a troubled face, "These 3 said that 2 afternoons before your assassination, they saw you with over 10 masked men near the woods outside Sanha village. They even heard you talking with the black-clad men. What you discussed is very similar to what Zhang He confessed. Duke Qing, how do you explain this?" Qingxiu laughed suddenly, "Really? Then I suppose these 3 old farmers are witnesses." "Yes. They've heard the rumors about the assassination and knew it was serious. So they went to report to the prefecture office early this morning. Now that multiple people are accusing you, what more do you have to say?" Lu Zhengwei sneered, "Duke Qing really has some tricks. If not for these 3 witnesses, I'd still be bearing the blame for the attempt on your life. So in the end, it really was your doing?" Wang Qunan stepped forward with the court tablet and declared righteously, "Your Majesty, the Duke of Jin framed a noble duke. With both material and witness evidence, there's no need for further investigation. He should be punished immediately to uphold the laws of the Tang dynasty." Seeing Wang Qunan jump out, Qingxiu couldn't hide his smile. "Once the truth is revealed, will he cry?" "Your Majesty, the Duke of Jin has evil intent. To frame Lord Xing with such conspiracies and deceptions, by law he should be beheaded. Please order his execution to set an example." "I concur, Your Majesty." "I concur as well." Several censors from the 5 surnames also stepped forward, except for Lu Shoulin, because Lu Yuxing had recently been accused of plotting to assassinate a marquis, and when his entire clan was executed, Lu Shoulin was also beheaded. Li Er already disliked Lu Shoulin. Although many pleaded for him, Li Er still ordered his extermination. Among the censors, the one who leapt forward the most enthusiastically was Wang Qunan, the deputy censor. Li Er toyed with a glaze-tipped brush in his hand, asked with a half-smile, "Duke Qing, do you still have anything to say?" Qingxiu cupped his hands and smiled, "Your Majesty, do you remember 7 days ago I said that Zhang He would personally confess the mastermind behind this?" "Oh?" Li Er said with keen interest, "Duke Qing is so confident, I wonder if Zhang He now wants to reveal the true mastermind?" The officials began whispering again. Qingxiu nodded. Zhang He is outside the hall. Your Majesty may summon him at any time for personal questioning. Li Er stood and said urgently, Quick, bring Zhang He into the hall. Soon, Zhang He, bound tightly and struggling, was brought into the hall of supreme harmony. The attendant removed the rag from his mouth. Zhang He's first action was to crawl toward Qingxiu, shouting incoherently, Antidote. Give me the antidote. Ahahaha, quickly, antidote. Qingxiu lifted his leg and stomped on Zhang He's leg. With a crack, Zhang He's leg broke. In agony, Zhang He regained some clarity. Qingxiu leaned down and said, Zhang He, recite what you confessed to me yesterday once more. I'll give you the antidote, confess early, be freed early. Zhang He cried with snot and tears, I am a death soldier raised by clan elder Wang Buqing of the Taiyuan Wang family. It was Wang Jinghuai, Wang Buqing's grandson, who told me to do this. All of it was ordered by Wang Jinghuai. Li Er stood up suddenly, unable to hide his excitement. He realized today he could legitimately destroy one of the 5 surnamed 7 clans. Not only that, when confiscating their estates, they'd find hundreds of unpublished rare texts. This was invaluable. Antidote. Antidote. Zhang He, a grown man, began to cry loudly, Your Grace, please give me the antidote. I already confessed. I'm in pain, please give me the antidote. Qingxiu produced longevity paste and used a small silver spoon to feed Zhang He a little of it. Immediately, Zhang He seemed transported. Covered in sweat, he lay on the ground with half-closed eyes, enjoying relief. The officials gasped. My God, such a poison, more extreme than a day and night of torture by the Court of Judicial Review. The mastermind, is the Taiyuan Wang family? The Taiyuan Wang clan is doomed. They'll be executed to root. I wonder what poison Duke Qing revealed that works so terrifyingly. As expected of Duke Qing, truly masterful. No way, you're making it up, Wang Qunan sweated coldly, glancing at Zhang He, then nervously said to Li Er, Your Majesty, you can't trust Zhang He's words. He's under duress, Duke Qing forced him to say this. He was delirious, we can't believe him. Oh? Li Er responded coldly, Censor Wang, so you're saying that since you're mentally clear now, I should only listen to you. Wang Qunan knelt, trembling, Your Majesty, forgive me, I didn't mean that. I mean Zhang He was delirious, his words are nonsense and not trustworthy. Qingxiu sneered, then let Zhang He speak again once he's fully lucid. He kicked him and asked coldly, Zhang He, are you mentally clear now? Zhang He's face changed. He frowned but then said weakly, Your Majesty, I am clear-headed now. My confession earlier was given with full consciousness. I can repeat it. My name isn't Zhang He, it's Wang Zhansi, of the Taiyuan Wang clan. I was a marginal figure. The only way forward was to become a death soldier for the Wang family so my family could live well. Recently, Wang Jinghuai approached me to carry out this plot against the Duke of Zhen. Wang Jinghuai is the mastermind behind the assassination. Every word I said is truthful. Wang Qunan turned pale and his legs trembled. The 3 old farmers kneeling in the hall also weakened. Although they were morally dubious, they weren't fools, they realized the person who paid them to testify wasn't the mastermind. Wang Qunan trembled, Nonsense, nonsense, how could a member of the Wang family instruct you? You, Zhang He, you can't slander people. Li Er frowned and scolded, Censor Wang, shut up and return to the censorate. Wang Qunan slumped to the floor and nearly collapsed into the sensory area. Others looked at him with pity and maintained distance, wary of taint by association. Li Er regarded the 3 farmers with authority and solemnly asked, I'll ask you one last time, did you truly witness Duke Qing plotting with masked men? One old farmer trembled, Your Majesty, perhaps we saw wrong. Yes, we could have been mistaken. I was wrong too. False or not, 3 people claiming to be wrong, your eyes must be worthless. Summon guards and take these 3 to the Court of Judicial Review, remove their eyes, and torture them severely. The chief farmer collapsed, crying, Your Majesty, please spare my life. I confess, the pig-headed Zhao gave me 100 taels of silver to say this. It was Zhao who instructed us to come and testify. Please have mercy. We were instructed by Zhao. Li Er coldly laughed, What nerve you have, to frame a marquis in court, and dare to deceive your emperor? Dai Zhou, take them to the Court of Judicial Review. Secure information on Zhao, then send them all to be hanged at Shishir Vegetable Market. The 3 farmers instantaneously regretted, one even fainted from fear. Taiyuan Wang clan, just one Taiyuan Wang family. Li Er said harshly, the Taiyuan Wang clan conspired to assassinate a duke, stirring chaos in the court, deceiving the sovereign. By law, their entire clan will be executed. 100 Rider Department, immediately go to Taiyuan. Arrest all members of the Wang clan and bring them to Chang'an for execution. And also that Wang Chunan, he's also a direct member of the Taiyuan Wang family. Strip him of office and punish him as accomplice. Wang Chunan was scared so badly he wet and soiled himself on the spot. Censor Wang, where's that arrogance of yours? Qingxiu looked at the limp Wang Chunan on the ground and chuckled. I told you from the start, when your Wang family gets wiped out, I'll bring you down too. You surely didn't disappoint me. Wang Chunan suddenly sprang up, his eyes red, and shouted, you blind bastard. I'll kill you. He hadn't reached Qingxiu when a palace guard rushed in and kicked him far away. Then they dragged him away like a dead dog. Outside the hall, Wang Chuanan's roar echoed, blind bastard, even as a ghost I won't forgive you. What hatred is this? Qingxiu thought, I didn't do anything to you, now even as a ghost you won't forgive me? Li Er looked displeased, what kind of people are you? You've made my court filthy. If Duke Qing hadn't had a way to prove his innocence, he'd have suffered terrible injustice. Now the facts have shown he is innocent. You lowly officials who kicked him while he was down, I see it all. Where is your integrity as officials? Many civilian officials bowed their heads. With the truth out, Li Er ended the court at once and withdrew behind the grand hall. The officials dispersed. Qingxiu walked out, softly sighing, ah, fame truly brings trouble. Someone gently patted him on the back, it was Chang Yaojin. Uncle Chang wants to see me? Qingxiu asked softly. Chang Yaojin showed no expression. In a low voice, come to my residence later. I have something to say to you. Qingxiu was curious, not sure what Chang Yaojin wanted. He followed Chang Yaojin's carriage to Huaidfang. Chang Yaojin's mansion was there. The courtyard was huge, and the side yard had more than 10 cows. No wonder his estate always had dead cows. He and Qingxiu entered the residence. Qingxiu asked, Uncle Chang, why did you have me come here? Chang Yaojin first smiled, then turned serious, I have good news and bad news. Which do you want first? Qingxiu smiled, isn't that the classic fortune dependence next to misfortune? Haha. Chang Yaojin laughed, who knows, both might be good. Then I'll hear the bad news first. Chang Yaojin motioned to a servant, bring Chou'er here. The servant fetched someone from the back garden. 2 middle-aged women approached, one plump with a wealthy face, one voluptuous and mature. Master has returned so soon? Chang Yaojin smiled and said to Qingxiu, this is your 2 aunts. Qingxiu cupped his hands, greetings to both aunts. The plump woman smiled kindly, so you are the Duke Qing our master often mentions? Certainly handsome, a lot better than our ugly Chou'er. The other woman examined Qingxiu closely, like a mother-in-law checking a son-in-law. Qingxiu felt tense, perhaps he was being introduced to his concubine? He worried. Did Chang Yaojin have a daughter? If she looked like him, that'd be terrible. He must reject firmly. At that moment, Cheng Chuemo ran from the back garden. Father, you called for me? Ah, Duke Qing is here. Cheng Chuemo laughed and greeted him. Chang Yaojin said, let's talk in the study. Lady, have the servants bring some tea. They entered the sitting room. Qingxiu asked, Uncle Cheng, what did you want to see me about? Chang Yaojin said, let Chou'er tell you. He looked at Cheng Chuemo. Chou'er, tell everything you heard at Qingwan House a few days ago. Qingwan House? At the name, Qingxiu smirked. Cheng Chuemo looked embarrassed, but quickly composed himself and whispered, 2 days ago I visited Qingwan House and bumped into Lu Xuanxiang. He was with some gambling den thugs. You know, Lu Xuanxiang is Lu Xuani's younger brother, son of Lu Zhengwei. They seem to be plotting something. I casually overheard that Lu Xuanxiang believes you killed his brother and wants revenge. He had those thugs in Sanha village find someone to testify against you. I planned to tell you originally, but after we came back I first told my father. He forbade me, but it nearly drove me crazy holding it in. Cheng Yaojin laughed, I didn't forbid Chou'er from telling you. I plan to wait for court tomorrow. If you couldn't prove your innocence, then Chou'er would speak. But you're capable, if you can pry open a death soldier's mouth, my worry was unnecessary. You know, I and Lu Zhengwei fought side by side in war. Though I favor you, I can't publicly help you. So I told you, it's for you to handle. Qingxiu was grateful, thank you, Uncle Cheng. I'll send some fine wine over later. Haha. Cheng Yaojin laughed, of course. By the way, another cow died at my place last night. Later have Chou'er bring you a hind leg. Qingxiu nodded. Then he said, those 3 old men who testified in court, they were likely arranged by Lu Xuanxiang. Most likely. Qingxiu then asked, and the other matter you mentioned? Cheng Yaojin looked at him, smiled without speaking. Cheng Chuemo came close and whispered with a grin, brother-in-law, your peach blossom luck has arrived. Qingxiu's expression changed slightly, corner of his mouth twitching. Chuemo, don't say nonsense. How would I marry your sister? So indeed, that must be the bad news, right? But Qingxiu couldn't imagine Cheng Yaojin having a sister older than Mo. Impossible. In history, there was none. Cheng Mo spoke seriously. Who's talking nonsense? If you marry my cousin after some days, wouldn't that make you my cousin-in-law? Cousin? Qingxiu froze. Cheng Mo is about 14, at that age girls would already be married. If that cousin is older than Mo, probably by 7 or 8 years, it's unlikely she's unmarriageable. And with Cheng Yaojin and Cheng Mo being so awkward-looking, even if she's only related by marriage, a woman over 20 unmarried must be a niece of Madame Cheng. Madame Cheng is quite overweight, almost 200 pounds. Imagine her niece? Qingxiu dared not think further. Cold sweat appeared on his forehead. No, absolutely not. Cheng Yaojin asked curiously, my worthy nephew, why do you look like you're facing a great enemy? Is your health unwell? Qingxiu gave a dry laugh. Uncle Cheng is too kind. I already have